in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity, tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil lurking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we don't forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we don't forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Hey, shout out to Taboo Smash with the early $5 super chat. Round of applause to you. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. And this is my channel. My name is Ike, and over here we talk about being better and doing better. What are we doing today? Today, we're talking about going out there to get what you want. You see the phrase that I have in the description, the phrase that basically says everything that you want, someone else has it. Let's say it's $1 billion that you want, Dr. Thunder. Let's say it's $1 billion. You can dream, okay? You can dream all day about how that $1 billion is going to come to you. But the fact is, the $1 billion is not going to come from the sky. It's going to come from other people's bank account. You can persuade one person to give you $1 billion, or you can persuade 1 billion people to give you $1. Whether it be relationships, okay, skills that you need to learn, products, services, software, the sexual marketplace, for example, whatever it is that you want. As social beings, what we want actually is in the hands of somebody else. Is there any pushback you may have to that? Because that is the foundational premise of this. We're trying to establish why exactly it is that this thing called soft skills or selling or persuasion or influencing leadership, call it whatever you want to call it, getting people to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it. Why exactly is it important? Dr. Thunder, anything wrong with the premise of everything that you want, someone else has it? And that really is the only question is, who's got it? Who's got my money? Right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's interesting. There's a different philosophies with respect to economics, and those what we refer to as being conservatives tend to buy into more of the sort of finite. There's only a certain amount of resources, and those that are progressive tend to subscribe to a more, there's sort of no end to this. And I would argue that both Democrats and Republicans have, in some ways, bought into more of a progressive view of that, because it's always, if there's some sort of economic problem, then we're going to grow our way out of it. In other words, you're going to create stuff where there was none before. And the problem with that is that there is finite resources. At some point, the amount of resources are finite. And if that is the case, then I think that supports what it is that you've just said. In other words, if you want something, then someone else has that thing that you want, because resources are finite. Yeah.
100%. Yes. So on that grand scale level, it is 100% true. And also in the level of which most people are looking for things, it is definitely true, right? We're not necessarily governments thinking of how we're going to feed 250 million people. We're just people looking for some extra resources, some extra services, some extra whatever it may be. It may be, again, some kind of relationship, social, shall we say, benefit that you're looking for. No matter what, someone else has it. And the thing is this, as you go up in any particular hierarchy, okay, what is the difference between the officer, the basic officer, or the army specialist versus the general? What is the difference between middle management and the CEO? What is the difference? And you can go on and on and on and on like this, right? And you will find that there is a style, what I'll call a stack of skills, which most of which these people share. Okay, they have certain technical skills, right? They may be a law firm. What's the difference between the head partner and the rest of the lawyers? The head partner, the CEO, the general is in a position of influence. In other words, they have to influence their group. They have to lead people. They have to both lead people within and without. They got to lead and inspire their troops and also communicate with those other people out there in the world, try to lead and inspire them to, hey, let's cut the deal. Let's cut the particular trade treaty, whatever it may be. Okay. So this particular one thing, one ingredient, soft skills, influencing, persuasion. Okay. Because when I say people are in a position of influence, people tend to think of, oh, yes, as a virtue of their position. But they don't understand that in order to get to that position, you need to be a person that can influence, right? People don't just put you in positions of influence if you have not demonstrated your ability to influence people. So talent stacks is something that I typically talk about. I got it from Scott Adams. Shout out to him. In other words, there are certain things, let's put it this way. You can be the 0.00001% in one thing. Like you could be the Tiger Woods of golf. You could be the Einstein of general relativity. Okay? But most people are not that. So how do you climb up? You got to stack a few things. Okay, I'm 5% in my engineering skills. I'm 1%, in my speaking skills or something like that. Maybe then if I add that with some other thing that I may have, an ability to work really hard, an ability to be strategic, you stack these things up together. And the next thing you know, you're going to be in the same rooms with the 0.0001% people. You're going to be there with Tiger Woods and Einstein, but how did you get there? By stacking these particular skills. And one very, very important one is the ability to influence. And that's what we're going to get into today. Okay. And we're going to do it in a rather systematic way. And Dr. Thunder, if you could keep an eye on the chat, because I got some screen type stuff going on. And I'm also going to be sharing some stuff. That would be great. If anything you notice there, for example, that you would like to bring up, because I'm not going to be noticing a lot. So let's get right into it. Okay, we're gonna have a particular structure here today, and then we're gonna attack it. I actually have this particular thing that I want to show here. Okay, how do you get what you want? So you're gonna be prepared. Number one, you're gonna be prepared. You're gonna make a good first impression. You're gonna negotiate, and you're gonna close. I don't care if you're out there to sell washing machines and dishwashers, or if you're out there, in these streets, trying to get somebody to go back home with you, right? It doesn't matter. You have to prepare, okay? You have to make that first good impression. Negotiation is really all about making people comfortable. That's why I said what I said there. And then you're going to close. And all these things tend to go, there is a through line between all these. Sometimes you got to, when you think you're closing, you got to go back to negotiation, okay? First impression, you can't do over. Preparation, you already got to be prepared. So let's start from the preparation angle of things, if you will, right? So I said there, practice, right? So that you can ad lib and improvise. Now, let me ask you this, Dr. Thunder. 2 questions. Number one, you are a performer. You're also someone in a position of influence. You're a college professor. You communicate with people and trying to persuade them of certain things, right? Now, what is the importance of practice? Okay, let's just stop there, because a lot of people sometimes, they don't understand that it doesn't, as I said, it doesn't matter if you're actually just going to some cocktail party. You need to be practiced as well. Some people are like, why do I need to practice? So my first question is this: why do people have an aversion to practice? Okay, and then number 2, how important is practice in your life before we get into the nitty gritty and the particulars here?
Well, practicing is work, so that's the big reason why people don't want to do it.
People are lazy. Okay, I get it.
That's right. I mean, we're all, we were all born as infants. You've seen a baby. Babies are lazy. You want everyone to cater to them, and you have to grow out of that. You have to mature out of that. And so work is toil, sweating, doing things that cause personal angst and pain. It takes a level of maturity to be able to do that, to do it with regularity, and to see it through. This sort of acquisition of any kind of skills is going to require that you notice that the skill doesn't exist, you acknowledge it doesn't exist, and then you devise some sort of plan to acquire the skill. And then you're going to have to practice the skill and then use the skill.
So
And as you do those things, you're going to become better.
there's the ad-libbing part, which I mentioned there, and it's very, very key. Now, you're a jazz musician, and I mentioned here in this thing, which I'll share again here, I said that you want to practice to the point of being able to ad-lib. Well, why? Because when it comes to communication, persuasion, okay, it's a real-time thing, okay? It's a real-time thing. And if you don't know the script, okay, if you don't know the script, if you don't have your intonations right, if you don't have certain go-to phrases even, then you're not going to be able to have enough of your conscious mind working on actually solving the problems and jumping through the hurdles as they come at you. So what are your thoughts about that, in the sense that beyond the fact that you're just trying to get the skill, there's something about getting the skill to the level where it becomes like second nature, where your particular speech, your pitch, your whatever it is, your go-to lines at the nightclub are second nature, so that you can then deal with the exigencies and the emergencies of the situation, right?
Yeah, some folks don't realize, most people don't realize how granular, how methodical, how controlled and contrived every step of the process must be when you're practicing. If you're trying to cultivate a certain instinct, then you have to prime the pump, and you have to do the things that it is that you want to cultivate occurring on their own. You have to, put them in there. So, for instance, yeah, I'm a jazz musician, and one thing about improvisation, which literally means spontaneous composition. One thing about it is that in order to improvise, or in order to be spontaneous, you must prepare.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes preparation for spontaneity, which on its face seems absurd. But when you look at it closer, you discover that it is the level of comfort that you have with a particular topic that allows you to have flexibility and be spontaneous within that topic. If you don't, if you haven't, practiced something to the point where you can do it forwards and backwards, and you can find all of these other ways to play it. For instance, in music, we talk about scales, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
That's a regular thing to practice. The reason for practicing scales is that all music is in some way, melodies and things are comprised of scales or scale degrees. And so if I want to become fluid enough to be able to play any melody, then scales and rudiments, arpeggios, scales and thirds, all these kinds of things, they're going to be, very useful in acquiring that sort of fluidity. If, for instance, a song is in F major, and then really being super fluid with all of the rudiments associated with F major. And that's not just simply being able to play F major scale up and down. That would also be all of the possible patterns associated with F major. Because if I have fluidity with playing all of those patterns, then it won't matter what occurs to me in that context. I will be able to play it. So if an idea pops in my head that's in F major, and I've already worked out all of these patterns in F major, then it's very unlikely that I won't be able to play it. Right? So now let's contrast. Let's talk about other keys. So say, for instance, I did that in F major, but I'm not so fluid in F sharp major. Now, I think the conventional thought is that, if you're being spontaneous, you just grabbing random stuff out of thin air, and so, preparation is not necessary. Well, let's test that. F major, I have a lot more experience. I've just practiced all of these things in F major. Okay. F sharp, not so much. So in F sharp, I say, okay, let's be spontaneous. All of a sudden, you're not going to have very much fluidity. You're going to be very uncomfortable. You're not going to be able to express the ideas that you have, not at any reasonable level.
Stop right there.
F major is going to be much more fluid.
Comfortable. That is the key term, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, what are we talking about? We're talking about how to persuade people. The most important thing when it comes to persuading people is that you make them what? Comfortable.
Yeah.
You wonder why? Okay. Well, try making them uncomfortable then. And see how well that works for you. Okay. Can I get a 1 in the chat? Can I get a 1 in the chat if we're going to be able to hold this one idea all the way through as we go from the preparation to the first impression to the negotiation to the closing, whatever it is you're trying to do? Can I get a 1 in the chat if we're going to understand that one thing is going to come up over and over again, which is you got to make them comfortable. You got to make them relaxed. You got to put them in a hypnotic state. It's another way of putting it. If you want to sound weird about it, if you want to sound like some crazy cult leader about it, what you're doing is hypnotizing them. But basically, you're putting them in that relaxed, receptive, impressionable state. Another word that I like to use, which sounds a little bad. You're making them impressionable. You're putting them in a very hypnotic state. So why did I stop you there, Dr. Thunder? Because you're saying, look, how do you make people comfortable? Or how do you make people uncomfortable is when you're not comfortable. And when you are not able to ad lib, when you are stiff up there, it's not going to work. Okay? It's not going to work. That's why you got to practice. You got to have your go-to lines. You got to have your go-to tonalities. You got to have your understanding very clearly of what exactly you're trying to get out of this particular interaction. So much so that you can be doing certain things automatically while thinking in real time, having enough RAM, random access memory in your head to be able to deal with the particulars so that you can ad lib. Okay? So that's just the beginning of the whole preparation talk here. So now, Let's kind of continue here. Let's continue. I said basically practice is very important because you want to be able to ad lib. Well, why do you want to be able to ad lib? Well, when you're ad libbing and you're flowing and you're free, people are relaxed. When people are relaxed, they're more open to whatever it is you're telling them. They're more open to be able to follow you. Whether you call it leadership, influence, selling, persuasion, it's all the same thing. You're trying to get people to do, generally not with a gun to their head, right? That's the that's the only thing here is that you're using your words, your nonverbal communication, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, but shout out to Kyodor before I forget. Kyodor is, by the way, an architect slash drafts person. Perhaps I got to reach out to you again. Maybe I may need some Revit modeling next year for a particular big job, which I may need to augment my staff a little bit. So shout out to Kyodor in the house. Thank you very much. I believe that's, what is that, $20? Looks like is that a $20 cover?
Yeah, $19.99.
$19.99 indeed. And Taboo Smash asked a question earlier about, well, how I became skillful, let's say, at the whole selling thing. It began with my music thing. Selling is a performance. All communication is a performance. Right now, I'm performing with you. I have an outfit on. Dr. Thunder has an outfit. He's got a camera. He's got a posture. He is performing, okay? It doesn't matter who you're talking to, whether it's a formal performance or an informal performance, it's all a performance. Unless and until you can do the Vulcan mind meld where you just plug in your brain into someone else's brain, you got to perform the act of communication. So I learned a whole lot of things being, some people may say something, okay, let me just admit that there is an aspect here which comes from natural talent. I'm not going to go ahead and say that, oh, it's just everything, there is a natural aspect of things here, okay? But I was able to take parts that were natural to me and then learn some systems and then extrovert with that. I'm an introvert, generally speaking, okay? But I learned to be a great extrovert by my being able to perform. Okay, so all the things that I say about going to the room, studying the room, being able to make people comfortable, all that is from my singing, my dancing, my songwriting, all that kind of stuff, being able to be in a room and make people comfortable. Whether you're in a boardroom and you're trying to take control of the room and have everybody listen to you, or whether you're in a bar and everything is distracted, right? There's a game going on. They're drinking, they're talking to somebody. Somebody's trying to get peace leave, right? But you want to get them to turn around and look at you and be like, wow, who's that person singing? It's the same thing. Okay, it's the same kind of thing. So I just wanted to say that for a second there in terms of how it became, where it started. But then I was able to abstract many, many different kinds of pointers, bring it over into the sales aspect. And then these things that I'm telling you today is what I do. Number one being practice, right? So let's get back to the slide here. Practice. Before every meeting, before every presentation, before every interaction, before every phone call, I always ask myself this question. What exactly do I want? And how can I tell them in one short sentence? You will be surprised, okay, how important this thing is and how overlooked it is. One thing about practice that perhaps we didn't get to, you said that the fact that people don't want to practice is because, they don't want to work. But the other thing is they have this ego attachment, like, oh, I don't have to practice. I know there's stuff in it now, right? I don't have to practice my game. What do I look like stupid, like trying to practice how to talk to a woman? Well, you're a freaking idiot if you think that way, right? Like you're just stupid, okay? Because it's like Michael Jordan or LeBron James saying, oh, no, I'm the best. I don't have to practice. You're a fool, okay? The better you get, the more you even have to practice. You got to practice. There's no ego like, I don't have to practice, right? I'm sure you've met some musicians like that, Dr. Thunder, right? Shout out to, what's his name? We talking about practice? What's his name? What's that guy?
Allen Iverson.
Allen Iverson. Shout out to Allen. We talk about practice? Yeah, that's some BS, okay? You got to practice. So even a phone call where, let's say I'm selling engineering services or I am selling a construction product. Before I go meet with this particular mechanical contractor, I'm meeting with project executives or the owner of the company or whatever. I know my services and I know the products perhaps that I'm selling. And I've done it over and over again with different mechanical contractors. But every time I have to re-ask myself the question, what do I want? Okay, that's the first thing. Do I want to get you to do X for Y purposes? And how can I tell you in one sentence? Not, we're just going to go talk to all those guys over there because, they use those services. I want to talk to them. It's like, no, Dr. Thunder, what do I want from my interaction with Dr. Thunder today vis-a-vis something I'm trying to persuade him of? I'm trying to get you perhaps to just hear my idea, right? So if Dr. Thunder asks me, what is this call about? See, Dr. Thunder, I would like you to hear this idea about X, Y, and Z. Do you have 5 minutes? That is what I want out of that conversation. I need to be able to hone it down every time to one sentence, because if I can tell you in one sentence at the beginning of the call, I make you comfortable, do I not, Dr. Thunder? Right? So that's kind of I don't know if any thoughts about that point, which is I got to every time know what I want out of the interaction and how I can tell it to you, because these things tend to be different, right? I may want something, I can tell it to myself, but how can I express it to you in one sentence such that it's cogent, coherent, concise, and then the conversation can begin? Any thoughts about that so far?
Yeah, that's a good strategy also in terms of just having better relationships and better sort of arguments with a spouse. Knowing what it is that you want to get out of the exchange. Because if you don't know what you want to get out of it, even if you get something that is, in the grand scheme of things, seems to be positive, you won't be satisfied. you'll still be dissatisfied. You'll still won't get the sense that there was a sense of completion, that things finished well, all of that kind of stuff. So yes, absolutely, you want to have a you want to have an end game
Hmm.
on and something that is clearly communicated as
Hmm.
such. Yeah,
Exactly. So you know what you're trying to close on, right? So
yeah,
you know when the close has happened, so that everybody understands which train they're on. Dr. Thunder, you're on the train of me trying to get you to hear this idea, and that's it. Or Dr. Thunder, now I want you to execute on this idea, right? That's the train you're in. As opposed to, I just wanted to see if maybe you might close it, that crap, right? That does not work. It makes people uncomfortable again. So, if you don't mind reading the super chat from a blind guy
absolutely. Systems are cool. Performance is better. Perform using the systems and get what you want.
hey, there you go. It's almost like saying theoretical knowledge and then actually practice, and then you practice it, do it in real life using the theoretical knowledge, and then you get what. That's that's one thing that could be pulled out of that. Definitely, definitely true. So again, I'm gonna go to every meeting knowing what do I want. It doesn't matter if I go in meeting after meeting after meeting, phone call after phone call after phone call, even if I had the same kind of phone call before. I always just before I call Maria Lipschitz. Maria Lipschitz, the project manager at Obayashi Construction Company. I'm like, what do I want from Maria? And how can I tell her in one sentence and it be true? And that's actually what I want. And I pick up the call and go, hey, I'm Ike XYZ. One of the things, if it's a cold call, one of the things I tend to do is I say, you don't know me, right? So I'll put some pointers in here in terms of like some phrases that I use because I said, hey, you got to be prepared and you got to have the things that you say all the time so you don't have to think about it. I'm like, hey, I'm Ike. You don't know me. I am XYZ and I would like this. Why do I say you don't know me? It makes them comfortable. I don't try to pretend. I don't try to become their friend at this point. I'm not trying to, like, hey, my name is Ike. You don't know me. I got your information from Becky, right? Typically, that's when you bring in, you got to know somebody within the organization. Becky is the secretary, right? Becky was the secretary that I tried to close on something else later. When I called Becky, it was, hey, Becky, you don't know me, but I'm trying to get the contact for Maria, right? And now I got Maria. Hey, Maria, you don't know me. I got your contact from Becky. I'm wondering if you can XYZ on this project, My first sentence. That way, this is Ike. I don't know him. Got it from Becky. He wants this. Now it's up to her to be like, okay, right? Now it's very rare that you're gonna run into a complete total asshole, or you're gonna run into people that you just have a very bad day. That they're gonna be like, no, what? Screw you, Ike. Most of the time they're gonna be like, okay, cool. This is what you want. And then also, especially if I'm calling Maria Lipschitz and she's an engineer, I know to immediately say, I know you don't have a lot of time. Okay? Those kinds of things. But I need to know that first sentence before I pick up that call. Because if I don't know that first sentence, what's going to happen is, oh, are you Maria? Oh, so how's it going today, Maria? And you know what? I actually work. Maria's already angry. If Maria is anything like me, that is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Dr. Thunder? Like, do you like people to come at you that way, the way I just came at Maria, which is like, hey, I'm Maria, you don't know me, I got your number from Becky, and I would like to get this done with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That would put me totally at ease. And, now if I'm going to give them that information or not, at least, I know what their end game is. I really, really don't like it when people try to small talk me. I really have no time for that. First of all, I'm not a good small talker. Secondly, I'm not going to pretend that we're connecting, because you started talking about the weather. I'm not going to do that. And it's just going to get more awkward because I'm not going to say anything because I'm not going to help you. So it's much better to have something very concise and clean, the way that you presented it.
Okay. Now we're gonna get to something that somebody's saying there on the chat, in the sense that this is the part of the negotiation when we get them comfortable. Okay, more precisely, get them comfortable, because what I said is everything from beginning to end about influencing people is about making them comfortable. Okay. What is the extreme? You can put a drug in their whatever, and get them really comfortable. All right. But the point is this: you're trying to get them comfortable. So now I said that the first thing I want to know, I pull out a clean sheet of paper every time. I'm like, what do I want? And then I can kind of sketch it out and then say, well, how can I say this? How can I say this to this person? A very simple way. Okay, cool. We got that part. Then there is a question of what is the problem / solution. And then I say, what do they want? Okay, now, and I put in parentheses here, there is a difference between the problem / solution versus what somebody wants. Let me tell you this. If you just know the problem and solution, that's kind of like that's entry level game. Okay, that's entry level salesmanship. That's entry level persuasion and influencing. Here is what the difference is, and let me make sure you guys are looking at me clearly here. The problem may be that the dishes are piling up in the sink. The solution is a new dishwasher that I happen to be selling. But what does the person want is a different understanding. What the person wants is not a dishwasher. The person wants a clean kitchen. They want peace of mind. They want to be able to sip a cup of coffee and not worry. They want a clean kitchen operation process. Does that make sense, that distinction, Dr. Thunder? Which is, you got to understand the problem and the solution, right? You got to be like, okay, you know what? They have this size of kitchen. They have this size of dish, blah, blah, blah. They have all blah, blah, blah. And I think this particular model of my dishwasher is going to work. But if you go there with that, only that, you don't understand yet. What you need to do is you need to understand from their first person perspective, because they're not trying to buy dishwashers. They're trying to buy peace of mind in their kitchen. Okay. And you need to understand that. Otherwise, you're not going to have the human touch in the conversation. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
So now the thing is, the reason why I mentioned also that it's master level is that you need to know that. Okay. But then what you do with it is when it becomes master level. You need to, at this point, just know that just because you have the solution to it, people are not in the market for a dishwasher. They're not in the market for a washing machine. They're trying to have a certain perception, a first person perception. They're trying to have peace of mind. They're trying to have reduced heart rate. This is what people live for. People don't live for dishwashers and washing machines. Okay? It's only a solution to a problem which would then give them peace. Can I get a 1 in the chat if, Dr. Thunder said he gets it, but can I get a 1 in the chat if this distinction is clear? Which is, I said, hey, you got to, number one, know what you want. And then you got to know what the problem and the solution is, but then you got to know what they want. And what they want is usually a vision, an image. They want peace. They want a clean kitchen so that they can sit down with a cup of coffee by the bar stool and not have to worry. And you have to be able to, when you start becoming the master, you have to be able to start painting the vision of what they want rather than talk about your product. They don't want to hear about your product. They want to hear about the clean kitchen operation, the peace of mind, sitting down with that cup of coffee and not have to worry about dirty dishes, right? That is what they want, and that is what you need to understand, because people want something every time, and it's not your freaking product. It is not what you're selling there. Even if you're trying to get her to go home with you, okay? You got to understand that what you're selling there is not you. You're selling the fantasy that she wants, right? There is a fantasy that she wants in her head, okay? And rather than you be like, say, you know what? I'm 6'4" and I got a 6-pack and I got this and that's not what she wants. There's a particular subjective state that she is looking for. Whether it be buying, washing. Go ahead. It seems like you're jumping to the bit there.
Yeah. So I have a great The Office illustration for you. Mm-hmm. So Robert California, who this is season 7, he basically takes over as CEO, but during the interview process, this is a this is a direct quote out of part of his response to a question.
Hmm.
So Robert California says, "You see, I sit across from a man. I see his face. I see his eyes. Now, does it matter if he wants $100 worth of paper or $100 million of deep sea drilling equipment? Don't be a fool. He wants respect. He wants love. He wants to be younger. He wants to be attractive. There's no such thing as a product. Don't ever think there is. There is only sex. Everything is sex. You understand what I'm telling you is a universal truth." There you go.
100%. 100%. I like it. I like it. I like it. People are living from a first person perspective. You got to remember that. One silly way of saying it, oh, put yourself in their shoes. In other words, people are not there sitting thinking about Maytag, how great Maytag is going to be in their kitchen and how Maytag works and 600 cycles per minute and any other BS you can say about the features and benefits of your product. No. And again, it doesn't care. I don't care if it's you. She's at the bar. You're trying to get her to go home with you, or you're trying to sell your Maytag. It's not about the product. It's about the first person perspective, that the first person perceptive kind of framework. I like to call it feeling, image, and talk. What is the feeling that they're trying to get? Somebody said good vibes over there. So you got to sell them good vibes, right? You got to sell her good vibes if you're trying to get her. You're not trying to say, you're not the good vibes is the product. You're just a means to get into the good vibes. The Maytag is just a means to get them to enjoy their kitchen more, sit there with a cup of coffee and read and feel tranquility. Tranquility is what you're selling when you're selling a dishwasher. You're not selling a dishwasher. So I think that we kind of got that mainly. So, and again, these things are not, shall we say, very complicated. In other words, I always prepare this way. I always say, what do I want? And I get that sentence down so that every time, if we get away from the conversation, I'm like, yeah, I'm just trying to remember, Dr. Thunder, what I'm just trying to do here is to get you to listen and understand this idea, right? Or, hey, Maria Lipschitz, I'm just trying to get you to XYZ. That's clear in my head. I can always repeat that. And that way my mind, my active conscious mind can ad lib, right? Because I have all those other things already prepared. Then what is the problem? What is the solution? I kind of have a fair understanding of what the problem is. I will ask you questions to be able to kind of clear out more about, the size of your kitchen or whatever it is you want, or her particular fantasy, the image of the kind of tranquility or good vibes that she is looking for, right? And the solution in my mind that I know, but I focus on the image and the vision and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm the solution, but I'm not going to tell her that I'm the solution, okay? Because that's weak level game. Now, okay, what do they want? Now you're prepared, you've set out, and we've spent some time just on the preparation level so far, okay? Now there's a first impression thing, okay? I don't know if you have any initial thoughts on this first impression thing because it goes into preparation. And let me ask you one last thing before we go to first impression. How important is being organized? Because I've kind of told you my way, which is I'm very organized in terms of what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it. What is the problem? What is the solution? What do they want? What do I want? And how can I tell them? Very organized all the time. Any kind of additional thoughts when it comes to preparation and being organized vis-a-vis persuasion that you would like to add?
Yeah, I think first impressions are very important. Organization is part of that. And if I feel as though, if I get the sense that you're organized and it's a sort of a linear sort of process that we're in, then I'm going to feel more comfortable. I'm going to feel like you're not wasting my time. And even if the person is not necessarily organized, they'll appreciate that you are organized. Okay. And again, the first impression thing, the saying, you only get one chance to make a first impression. That's true. I think what's important there is, I mean, there's an image component to it. I think maybe more important than the image is that you're very clear with what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and you're not wasting their time. So that's my general thought.
You're organized. You mentioned vis-a-vis the person who's coming to try to persuade you that you would like to see them organized. So that's partly why you're also organized, right? When you go ahead and try to do something, right? So
Yes.
okay. So I think we can see it on both ways. Again, we keep on coming to the concept of comfort. Comfort is what people want. You want to get stuff from people, make them comfortable. Is it easy to make them comfortable? No. That's what this whole influence, persuasion, sales game is about. Is it systematic though? Yes. So to answer the whole question again, that I'll continue to answer in terms of, well, how do I do what I do? Is I have a trust in systems. I like to do creative things and all that kind of stuff, but still, I'm very systematic with my creative stuff. Okay. When I write a song, okay, I go through and I first of all get the melody and the rhythm. I don't care about the words. Okay. I don't know what key it is because melodies can vary in the keys, right? But I have a melody and I'm looking for a feeling. So until that feeling comes, I'm not moving past that because the song is not going to work without the feeling. I can be like, oh, let me go through and try to get the feeling with the words. No, it's not going to work. Okay. So even in my creative endeavors, I have a great trust in systems. So once I get the feeling with the melody, like, okay, cool. Then I start to maybe vary some rhythms here, maybe in the hook or let's say the bridge. If for example, let's use a song, which you hear all the time here. If the very simple rhythm and melody of the verses is da 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 da. Okay, so I'm like pa 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 pa. Then I'm like in the hook, I wanna go like da 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 da. Something more slower. So run, come, make quick. Stuff like that. All that stuff is systematic. It's not just I'm just sitting somewhere. You just pull it out of thin air. No. Nope. And then okay, do I want to add a bridge? How do I then vary melody, key, rhythm to get that? All keeping track of feeling at the same time. Because if the feeling is not there, it's not going to work. The last thing that comes are the words. The words then have to work well. Words have sounds of their own, right? So if the words don't work with the it won't work. So again, I have a great trust in systems. So even stuff like selling and so on and so forth, I know that it works with systems. That's why that's what I do basically. Now, we've talked about the organization and the, shall we say, preparation, how important it is. You want to be able to be so good that you can ad-lib, because ad-libbing makes people comfortable, and being comfortable makes them more susceptible to the impressions that you're trying to give them. Again, now we're at first impression. Okay? We're back to that thing again, which is great first impression is for me to tell you, Dr. Thunder, exactly why I'm calling you in a very cogent, concise, coherent way. That makes you very comfortable, and that gives you a very good first impression of me. Right? You don't like, and I don't think anybody likes, in kind of just kind of random small talk. I was wondering if you could maybe somehow kind of, I'm just like, what do you want? What do you want? If you're trying to get her to go home with you, and that's what you want, and that's why I separate what you want and how you can tell them. Okay, because there's a difference, right? Because you could go is mode 1 or mode 1.5. You could go mode 1 X rated or whatever it may be. Shout out to Alan Roger Curry. But the fact is, if you know what you want, then you can think, how do I tell her? And this her could be any random her. It doesn't change, right? Because that's the whole point of practice. How can I tell her what I want? Cogent, coherent, concise, with these varying degrees of intensity, if you will. Maybe sometimes it's like, you know what? I'm feeling lucky today. I'm going to go full mode 1. Or not. Maybe you say something else. But if you don't know it, and if you can't say it, how the hell are you going to get it? It's not going to work. It is not going to work. So now we're talking about first impressions. And I said that a very good way of getting a first impression is to go ahead, have that sentence up front. Go ahead and drop it, right? And then there's another thing that I do. Attention intention, and big claim. So, how do I grab their attention? Okay. How do I state my intention? That goes back to that sentence again. And then what's my big claim? Okay. So I typically would say something like, let's I like using this. Let's say I'm trying to teach a course, right? I'm gonna be like, "Hi, my name is Ike. I've circumnavigated the Earth 5 times, and I'm here to show you in 2 easy steps how you could be a master sailor." So I've grabbed your attention, okay, by being short and sweet. Number one, right? I say my name is Ike. I didn't say my name is Ike Ogiamian. I didn't say my name is Ike Ogiamian the third. I didn't say my name is Ike Ogiamian the third, and I'm the engineer solution specialist of Northern California and Pacific Northwest. Right? I didn't say nothing about that. I said my name is Ike, and I've circumnavigated the Earth 5 times. That's grabbing their attention. And I made a big claim, and I said I'm going to show you how in 2 easy steps you can be a master sailor. Now I got you in my hands. Anything short of that is BS. Anything short of that is a bad first impression. So I don't know if you have any thoughts about the big claim aspect, because here's the thing. Are the steps actually easy when I said 2 easy steps? No. But do you mind that they're not easy? Do you think I'm lying to you, doctor? Or are you going to be like, well, Ike, you told me the steps were easy. Or are you following me? This is a good part where I want to get your thoughts, Dr. Thunder, because this is called bluster, right? Our DJT Donald, this was his whole thing. His whole spiel, the previous president, was bluster. Right? It's going to be great. It's going to be huge. You're going to be tired of winning. You're going to be winning so much. That was his whole thing, right? And it is quite effective and persuasive. So I always have in my sentence, because I said I want to know and how I'm going to tell them, but the means by which I tell them is to grab their attention, state my intention, and in there have a big claim. Okay? And the reason why you got to practice is you can't just pull out big claims out of your butt. You got to have a big claim that is good enough, real enough, but blusterous enough. When I say I'm going to show you in 2 easy steps how you can be a master sailor. Is it really 2 easy steps? Are you going to be a master? Who knows? But it sounds good.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're if you can see, people are willing to put forth effort for what it is that they want. Okay, so if you can show how what it is that a person wants is, if you can show them what it is,
and that is within reach.
If you have steps towards that, even if you say the steps are easy but they end up being hard, there's easy with respect to describing the steps, but then there's effort associating with walking out the steps. I think people are going to generally know that if what it is that they want is a pie in the sky thing, or is you're 300 pounds now and you need to get to 150, here's the 2 easy steps that you need to take. I think they already know that the steps are going to require effort, but you have a system that at least gets them pointed in that direction and moving that way. So I think that ends up being why that ends up working, even if it is presented like, as in easy steps. Now, what I don't particularly like is this idea of things being presented like sit on the couch and take a pill, don't change anything, and then everything works out. So I think things that are short of that, I think you're not going to have an issue with getting people to buy in. I talk to my students frequently about how much time it's going to be involved in, how much I expect them to practice. So I expect them to practice at least 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. At least 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. And it's documented practicing. So in other words, they're not they're not writing down what they think they're going to do in the practice room. They're writing down what they actually did, and it needs to equal at least 3 hours, 6 days a week. Now, I'm sure you understand this, but there's a difference between 3 hours of documented practicing and 3 hours in the practice room. You know, you might be in the practice room for 4 hours to get 3 hours of documented practicing. And there's an intensity involved with that. But the only reason that you're going to endure that is if I did a good job of selling you on what the end goal is. So you want to be this next level player. You want to be able to, you want to be able to play on any tune, and you want to be able to get the gig and all of that kind of stuff. Well, here are the steps. Mm-hmm. And if I say they're easy or not, doesn't matter. As long as you can see that there's a through to get to the final goal.
100%. So yes, you don't want to tell them something silly like, okay, it's going to be sitting on the couch and not doing anything. However, also, because I'm trying to get you to do something, I'm trying to get you into my program, right? When I stand there, rather than me saying I'm Ike O'Gammon the third, I did this and that, and I was born blah, 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 and you're already bored. I know people in the chat, just by me even saying that, even if it's an example, people are already like fall half asleep. This happens. That's why I say attention, intention, big claim. I'm Ike. I've done this big thing. I'm going to show you in 2 easy steps how you can become a master too. Then I got you. Once I got you, then we can go through the rest of the process. We're going to continue with the negotiation. Shout out to MOT, Man of Tomorrow, one of the greatest treasures out here in these YouTube streets. Would you mind reading what MOT has there on the $100 very, 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 very generous super chat, sir?
Thank you very much for the very generous super chat. And yes, he says #systems presented, liked, hustle works better.
Sounds cryptic. Sounds cryptic, very much like a Man of Tomorrow's content. I often have to reassemble what he's saying, but 100% we appreciate that. And go out and check his channel. If you're not subscribed to Man of Tomorrow, MOT, he drops gems out there across the board when it comes to getting ish done. Very much in line with the, shall we say, focus of my channel, which is about being better, doing better, with a strong emphasis on doing, right? MOT is about doing. MOT is about systems. MOT is about trusting the process. Very, very much welcome and thank you, sir. So, as I said, there is a link down there. Coherent, concise, and cogent questions only. Okay? This is where you get to practice what we're saying here. And I'm going to go ahead and say one more thing here in terms of the attention, intention, and big claim. And then we're going to have one question from from somebody that's showing up here. Let's see how many people come through, and then we can kind of see how we filter it through and so on. Okay, so you're competing for the attention part now. We already understand why the intention clearly stated is very important. And we understand why the big claim is important, because that big claim is, number one, entertaining. And people forget the importance of entertainment by the original term entertainment, not world star hip hop. Entertainment means allowing and enabling people to be able to pass their time in a rather unencumbered way, in a way where it's not challenging, in a way where they're not bored. So when they hear you're going to be in 2 easy steps, they're like, oh, cool, I want to see those steps and that kind of a thing. But here's the thing. You're not competing with your competitor. You're not competing with the other Maytag salesperson. You're competing with everything that could possibly get into their mind. Every feeling they could possibly have. The fact that their daughter is not passing, or the fact that their daughter is putting certain pictures on Instagram, which they're not very happy about. The fact that their son is a loser. That's what you're competing with, because you're competing for space in their minds. You're competing for space in the feelings, in their body. Okay, so that's the idea. You're competing for space in their perceptual framework, in their feelings, in their image, and their talk. That's what you're competing for. Let's go ahead and bring in a couple of guests here, and before we continue, see what we got. First, shout out to K Polymath, shout out to Man of Tomorrow. First of all, let's do you guys let's see. Man of Tomorrow, what you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, just where I'm at right now. So what you're talking about right now is just that a lot of people don't understand that we're looking at these things online. They're actually depending on people don't understand anything about the process to which they're actually trying to get value out of. They
Mm-hmm.
put the actual value in the fact that anybody can do this and you can get value out of it. And that's why when I did create transportation wise, but the people showed me what was making the money out there was the people who had million, 2 million views, didn't know anything about transportation, only had a truck, didn't have an authority. And I'm like, are these the people who are actually I'm actually competing against to get my actual information out there? They're like, yes, these people are not even in the industry like you are, and that's why your actual information sound differently than anybody that it has. And
Mm.
then like you would have people be like, wait a minute, you're actually in the industry and this guy isn't. Why does your information sound so much? But my information is based on actionable things that you could participate in an everyday day in life. And that was like, but I paid attention to a person who knew what trucks look like and everything else. I'm like, that guy doesn't have his authority. Did you know that guy just got his authority 3 months ago? I was like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I've been listening to the guy for about 7 years. I know he just got his authority. This is the actual, this is when he got his authority, and you're still listening to a guy who are not even in the business. It's like he knows that he's talking to a bunch of people that's not in the business, but for an actual passerby person, they thought that they were listening to an actual expert in the field. Like, no, that guy was not an expert in the field. That guy was an expert on teaching you like he was an expert in the field, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you you have to walk in breaking dreams from the first beginning, and that's bad if you're a person who's trying to come in and actually teach people about what's going on, because most of my teaching is reteaching people how to think about the actual career field that they're going into. Like most of it is about reteaching people how to think about what it is that they're going into. So it's like, okay, this guy is 50, 60, 70 years old. He doesn't have any experience owning what he owns, but he's teaching you as if he does. And it's hard for people to let that go, that you've been down the wrong road for a very long time. So what they do is they go after the person who removed the wool from the sheep's clothing and treat those people as the enemy, not the person they've been listened to. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the barrier that you have to go through, unfortunately. Sorry.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is, because you're talking about mass numbers now, and when you talk about the masses, you're talking about the masses. We know, and we know what we get when we talk about the masses. But even though there might be some people in the masses that we want to tell, hey, don't be deceived. Dr. Thunder has been using examples from his expertise. I always talk about what I know about and what I do, what I just did yesterday, right? And I say, hey, I'm talking to Maria in Obayashi Construct. Everybody knows what I do. You can go out there and look up my company website, blah, 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 or whatever it is. I'm 100% open. It's my real name, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm not going to necessarily get the same number of people listening to me, but presumably the people whom are going to listen are the people whom actually want actionable stuff, as opposed to the people whom can give a whole bunch of theoretical stuff, sit around, talk about neuro linguistic programming. In this particular case, since we're talking about selling, they can talk about all these kinds of things about the latest in technology or in psychological studies about persuasion. It's like I'm talking about calling somebody today to close a deal and how I did it the past 700 times, right? And but people would rather hear, oh, what's the latest Harvard study about this particular part of the brain? And when you push it this way, it does this, that, and the other. Unfortunately, that's kind of what that's the bag that we're in, right? Isn't that's what you're basically saying, MOT, right?
Correct. And it's like when you talk to, there's two different people that you talk to. There's an investor class of people, and there's an actual asset class of people based on the actual things you actually invested in. And those are two different type of conversations. Like you
Hmm.
can have an investor level of a conversation with person who doesn't understand what's going on. They get it. But if you understand that investing in an actual action based personnel with the same level of conversation, they're gonna have a hell of a lot more information that they need to bring to the actual forefront before they actually make the decision versus the other group. It's like people don't understand that every time you talk to different people, you're talking to different classes of people, and they don't have the level of patience with not understanding what you're talking about when they're talking about them giving up realistic money for theoretical returns. And people don't understand that. They think that personally. For them, this stuff is great. We've been here for a while, and people just ask them a certain question, the whole framework inside their heads falls apart because they don't know how to think about it from an investor standpoint.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. So shout out to K Polymath. What you got for us, sir?
Yeah, I want to respond first to what the man of yesterday said. And shout out to you and thanks for the $100 super chat. Um, it's quite a poignant point. I remember when I was young and one of my friends got into this whole game thing and he read this book, The Game by whoever wrote that book. And he was trying to convince me that I have to learn the game. And yet I was getting fee fails easily, more or less, and my method was working. But he was so convinced that I had to do things in his system because his framework was somehow supreme. I also remember when I used to play basketball, I used to actually have a pretty good shooting percentage, 35% on 3 point, and it's not great, but it's pretty decent. And my friend was getting 25% with his perfect form. But for some reason, they just couldn't reassess things and sort of realize, okay, well, this system for me is working. Their system perhaps is not working even for themselves, but they just can't reanalyze the situation because the person that they were learning from apparently was the correct one. Instead of kind of, looking at things in real time and realizing, okay, so what's going on here? What's the purpose of the game? Are we trying to get good points? Is it the aesthetics that you're looking for? Is it the winning the game? The point is, for me, it was winning the game and getting points. For him, perhaps it was the aesthetics as well. But the point is, he was so focused on aesthetics, not realizing that's what he wants, yet misplacing it and thinking that he was actually the one winning somehow. So people don't tend to kind of know what they're looking for. So if I'm relating this back to what you mentioned earlier about businesses, well, a lot of times people are trying to sell your product, especially right here where I am in Nairobi. It's like people are trying to sell me a product all the time. And I tell them that's not what I want. I want this other product. Instead of them just realizing and giving me the other product, they're still trying to convince me so hard why I should take the first product and why I shouldn't even want the other product. It's quite interesting.
Mm. So 2 points there. The first one is empiricism, which basically is what the Man of Tomorrow is talking about, which is proven track record of success, experimentation, where you can document, oh, this has 85% chance, blah blah blah, and I can show you, I have proof. Versus, oh, this guy, has got 1 million views, and the book looks great, and look, he's standing in front of a jet, and all that kind of stuff, right? And now, let me ask you this, K Polymath, because at the end of the day, the people whom do things, I think, can tell the difference. In other words, the person whom is going after the aesthetics only, they're never gonna do anything anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right? In other words, the person who actually is gonna do something, who's gonna take action, they know where to find the right kind of information. Correct? There's not that many people whom can be deceived, right?
That's true. But the issue here is obviously there's a self-deception going on. They actually think that they're actually doing things. They don't just sit in their lane and, okay, like an armchair philosopher versus an actual philosopher king type, right? The philosopher king knows decisions get made, people die. country evolves, it gets better, but there's sacrifice instilled. Armchair philosopher tells you it is morally wrong to do X, Y, and Z, yet nothing gets did, and there is no actual resolution of continuity and making a stake and moving forward. So these people are living in a self-deceptive mechanism, and then they also deceive others, especially those who are going to follow them. Because it's what I noticed, especially with the game thing. Like, this guy was getting no fee fails. I was getting fee fails, right? Using my own simpy ways, as he called it. And he just couldn't resolve that the game, as what he read, was actually perhaps not the only way to get fee fails. In my case, it wasn't getting him anything anyways, but
100%. So, Dr. Thunder, you have any reactions to both what MOT said and what K Polymath have said?
Yeah, we face this often in academia. You talk about, let's talk about, we'll talk about schools of music, conservatory model. The conservatory model has sort of been under some scrutiny as far as making some changes so that it will provide information that will be directly useful in the actual music industry, not in a music industry that existed hundreds of years ago, but in the actual music industry. But there's a lot of tradition associated with doing it a certain way. And so it's very hard for folks to change their mind about it. And then once more, it's also, you have a lot of older faculty members that have been doing things a certain way, and they don't have a lot of motivation to change the way that they're doing it. So you have a lot of resistance, in other words.
100%. Go ahead.
So there, and then once more, there's certain teachers that have a flexible style. They have enough knowledge in a variety of areas so that they can help the student the best, for wherever the student is and the kind of information that they need. And then you sort of have one gear, one approach applied instruction where they're not going to change their approach. They're going to do what they're going to do. And that's all there is to it. They're just going to do what they're going to do. So the student has to sort of sniff this out prior to going to that institution. But of course, what happens frequently is the student doesn't sniff that out because, you do whatever you need to do to get the number of students that you need to get in your studio. And then when they're doing the one gear approach, now the student is stuck, and they'll either, just say, well, I guess this is what my life is going to be for the next 4 years. Or they'll say, you know what, I'm transferring to another school. And of course that happens in sports also. You recruit, quarterbacks or whatever. Who is it? The quarterback for Cincinnati Bengals. Goodness, I can't think of his name right now, but he went to Ohio State first, but the system didn't work for him. And so he went to LSU. Of course, they won the national championship. And then he was number 1 overall. So, that's just part of it. You have to be able to sniff out when people are going to give you this sort of one approach method, and then surmise if that one approach method is going to work for you or not. So,
got it. Let me give a couple of pointers here, because I've been saying that part of the preparation thing is to have certain words, certain phrases, certain things that you go to. Right. For example, you always have to know how you're going to grab their attention, what your big claim is, and also what your intention is. That one sentence as to, why am I calling this person? Why am I writing this email? Why am I at your door giving you a sales pitch? Whatever it is, whatever kind of influencing or persuasion you're doing. Another thing to say in this attention part, right? When I say that you're competing for attention in their space, in their mental space, and that it's not just your competitors. As a matter of fact, they're not thinking about your competitors the same way they're not thinking about the dishwasher or the fridge. They're thinking about their problems. Okay. So you want to bring their attention to the problem. One of the things you could say is like, I would like to get your attention. That very sentence there, because because you're talking to them, just because you're talking to somebody doesn't mean you have their attention. Okay. But when you say, look, I would really like to get your attention on this, and it's usually on that image, on the image of the solution or the problem, the fact that they can't sit comfortably in their kitchen and have their coffee because the dishwasher doesn't work well. So that simple phrase, something you want to have in your back pocket when you're talking to somebody, you're trying to influence it, like, I would like to get your attention on this. And it brings it's almost like it's honest. Again, it's direct. I think we can already feel why that's important. Now, if we continue here, I want to say the next part is on the negotiation, again, making them comfortable in a negotiation. And I want to say something, and I want to get a reaction, perhaps beginning with MOT, and then or we'll go up from there, K Polymath and Dr. Thunder. Basically, people want autonomy, okay? So I would say things like this, like no is always an option, right? So if I come to you, MOT or Dr. Thunder, K Polymath, I'm like, you know what? I would like to find out why you're not currently using our service, or make it understood that even if the answer is no, I would like to know why the answer is no. Or you could even make it more forward, like, we can always revisit this. I just want you to know that, if at any point this becomes uncomfortable for you, or if you would, we can always revisit this. You can always walk out. So typically what happens is people are on the edge of their seat when you come into the room. Okay. They're at the edge of the seat. They're like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? But once you tell them, hey, the door is always open, you can always leave, they actually settle into their seat. They don't leave. Okay. So let's start with Man of Tomorrow, if there's any thoughts about that at all or no, and then K Polymath and Dr. Thunder. This is something that I was at Southland Industries, a mechanical contractor, about a couple of weeks ago, and I did this exact thing where it's like I made them know that no was an option, that just make them comfortable with that. I don't know if this is something that you've encountered, Man of Tomorrow, K Polymath,
Yes.
and Dr. Thunder.
Yes, I do this a lot because I'm within the defense industry, within moving equipment across the United States. Like, no is a better option to get yourself within the door than a yes or no. Everybody's trying to figure out what it is that I can save money. But you go through the everything, and then the only thing they're waiting on is the actual comparison chart. Because people who save money, they're looked at as an actual benefactor to themselves about how much money is being saved. Now, we're talking about the defense industry. Defense industry is not going away. Defense industry is going to make a lot of money. I make a lot of money. But at the end of the day, the people who are trying to convince people are based the comparison on how much money that can be saved versus going out. So they don't even care about anything that you say out of your mouth until it comes to how much money is being saved. So what people don't understand is that they start listening at the point to where they start benefiting. Now, there are 5 or 6 ways you can do this. If you are on a phone one-to-one basis, you need to start out with the benefit right away. Because I'm in the defense industry. Everybody can, within a reasonable spectrum, can look at my company. They, within a reasonable spectrum, can figure out how much I make off the defense industry, which is a lot. They can figure out within a reasonable spectrum of the people who I have as competitors, and with a reasonable spectrum beyond that, how those personnel can actually present themselves in actual business that is actually actual competitors of mine. It's nothing but spectrums. But if you don't know what you're doing without even having all that information up front, you could be pretty lost pretty quick. Because all of these things that I just brought up are different companies who do this for a living. Like, I have to pay $5,000 to find out this information per contract that I actually have to go out there. It's not free, right? So it's like okay, these companies have to do XYZ to put myself in a position, but some people think that, well, I have a um, woman owned business who's a part of my organization, or a veteran owned business, or disabled owned business who's part of my organization, so I got everything in. But if you don't understand that, if there are several different levels of these type of things that are far ahead of you in advance, because all those things are actually being tracked as well. You could
Mhm.
lose out on a lot of things by basically going into the wrong situation.
Mhm.
Now,
Can,
everything that
can,
I said sounds very generalized and very, what is this guy talking about? But everybody who's actually in the defense industry is very specific about what I'm talking about.
right.
Were you about to jump in, Dr. Thunder, or
Yeah, I have another The Office illustration that I think points this points what Man of Tomorrow is talking about. It points it out. So Dunder Mifflin is hemorrhaging clients, and although Michael Scott, who is a really good salesman, but he's an idiot also, which is what makes the show hilarious. He's not really a good manager, uh, but he's a great salesman. It's like a idiot savant thing. But for some reason, he got in his head that the way that he was going to get the clients back was that he was going to purchase these elaborate gift baskets and then go around to the clients that he lost. Now, mind you, the clients were lost because uh, it was like Staples or something could offer lower prices. So it was on 100%. It was a
price?
money issue. So he went over and they tried to wine and dine him, give him these, elaborate gift baskets with, macadamia nuts and exotic coffee and all this kind of stuff. And the clients that they were trying to get back, they just told him, he said, "Look, I, I appreciate the basket, but that has nothing to do with why we went somewhere else. And if you can save us some money, we'll call you. But if you can't save us any money, then we're not interested." So a lot of these sort of flowery, uh, extra stuff, what really matters is making the human connection, all that kind of stuff. With a lot with it. I mean, you have to understand why a client goes to another company. If it has nothing to do with that, if it has nothing to do with something like customer service, or somebody offended them, or they're canceling you because you said something they didn't like, if it has nothing to do with that stuff, it might just be because they needed to save money, and if
Mhm.
you can't save money, then you're done. So
Okay, Polymath, before we go to you, right? Because I want to do a little kind of see if I wrap my head around what was said vis-a-vis this whole thing about them being free to walk out the door, right? Because if you come in there and you're going to gift basket them to death, or as MOT said, you come in there and you're going to tell them how you're a disadvantaged business entity, you got your women, you can help them meet some kind of federal mandate vis-a-vis contracts because of some things that they have, right? Blah, blah, blah. And you don't know why exactly they're going to end up saying no. It's going to be a long process whereby, because Man of Tomorrow said sometimes no is even better in keeping you in their Rolodex than them just saying, we'll get back to you. Right? So the idea is this: when you come in there and you let them know, hey, because what I did in, again, 2 weeks ago at Southline Industries was I was like, I know you don't use these particular product right now. And two things I would like to know. Number one is why you don't. And then also, if we go through, after we go through the whole solution thing, the negotiation, if the answer is no, we would like to know why not, right? Because we're in the business of improving what we are offering, right? So that they now know at some point they're comfortable with telling me, you know what, it's gonna be all about this thing, right? I'm trying to get information from them. I'm not trying to gift basket them to death or just tell all kinds of crap that is completely irrelevant to them. So if they tell me, hey, you know what? No, because yours has 7 screws on the side and we want like 3 screws. Boom. They've told me something that they know they told me and they know I heard and I received it well, and I'm still going to be in their Rolodex, and they're going to be like, when he gets 3 screws, he can come back and talk to us. But some people never get to the point of, let me get a 1 in the chat if this makes sense. This is about understanding the objections, understanding where the no is. And you want to understand where the no is by immediately letting them know that no is an option, as opposed to you're going to force them somehow. They know why they're going to say no eventually. And you want them to be comfortable by telling them that no is an option so that they can quickly get to the no and tell you why, because as a matter of fact, you can come back another day when you've solved that no problem. So, K Polymath, any thoughts about this?
No.
I have it. Yeah, I have it. Because I'm in the defense industry. So it's like, like when you're in the defense industry, it's the same people who work for the same organizations who are shuffled between different environments. So I could put different names of programs in it where people will bite on it with like, if that guy worked on that, then he knows something about this person who's on our side. And I knew that a chief master sergeant who headed that program, who would be able to be in charge of actually reading something, would be like, I know who that guy is. I know who that guy is. We have an insight on that deal. I can tell you everything about that guy. I could call him up on my phone. It's illegal to do so. But they'd be like, you know what? We know who that guy is. And it's always a we thing. And it's like, all of a sudden, you hear what the actual explainer is and be like, you know what? And they send like their people out, the people from the FBI and the agency and everything else. I'm like, we need to talk to you. And this is how the things work way behind the scenes. I'm like, we need to talk to you about XYZ. Well, what is it about? You know what it's about. If you put out a filler for an actual defense platform, they're coming to talk to you, whether through pretty women or ugly men or scary motherfuckers in masks or fucking scaling down your walls. You know they're coming to talk to you. So it's like, don't make this hard for us, and we won't make it hard for you. But it's like, we need to talk to you. This is the actual contact that we have. You know him, we know you, and we need to talk to you about this specific platform. And like a lot of people don't understand that's how this shit actually works. But people think like people like actually sitting in the room and they're like between 10 million and 15 million. No, that's not how it works. They know what the platform is. They throw out the different code words. They see who bite on it, and they be like, we know who that guy is based on what was said. Because everything is public. Like my name is public from the things that I've actually bidded on. Public. And it's like, oh, well, we're going to go after my name, and they'll be like, okay, this is the actual guy who bidded on this shit. And it's like, this guy had these people with him in XYZ. And it's like, it sounds cryptic, but the people who are actually looking for it will be like, we know who this guy is. We need to talk to this guy. And that's how it works. And it was like, and that's what people are like, well, you know what? We can do whatever we want. It's like, no, you can't do whatever you want. You have to be able to score points when each other person's squad. And I didn't know that shit until way later on, that I was the actual guy that knew the chief in another unit that I was stationed with 15 years ago. And we was passing by, but we had the same equal paperwork that said that we actually known each other. So you're actually like walking into a Waffle House and you'd be like, what are you doing here? I know who you are. Why are you here? I'm like, well, we need to talk about this contract. And that's how this shit actually works. It works based off associations and everything else. But people thought that, well, there is no way that you guys will still be able to know each other at 20 years. I'm like, you'll be surprised. If you haven't met somebody in 20 years and you bring up their name, you're going to know who they are, especially if you meet them in person. And especially if they meet especially if they pay to meet you in person. That's how those things work. But most people think that, oh well, there ain't no way those guys can be able to know each other. I'm like, bullshit. We know each other. We know we worked on a different project together, and there is no way that no one else knows that unless you're a part of that project. And you know everybody.
Hmm.
Everybody knows everybody within that construct. So it's like those are guys that I met 4 days ago. Took an actual Uber, and I looked at this shit. I'm like, I know the guy last four of his actual social security number. And my girl was like, "There's no way that you know this person out of nowhere." I'm like, "Bet." Booked the booked the shit. I walked in the shit and I looked in the window. I'm like, she was like, "You actually know this guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know him." And we talked about shit for 3 days. 3 days. We haven't seen each other in 25 years, and we talked about shit for 3 days.
Mhm.
That's how tight the defense industry knows each other, based on the people who's getting the actual contract from each other.
This is something I was gonna add. Well, actually, I was thinking about adding it, which is the whole groups, associations, which
Oh my
every
god!
industry,
Yeah.
Dr. Thunder, whether it be in academia or in the music industry, jazz people, especially when you talk about climbing up, because as you climb up, it's more like a pyramid. It even gets fewer and fewer, right? It's the same people. The same thing in the engineering industry, construction management industry, all that kind of stuff. You're going to keep on running into petrochemical industry, which is kind of part of where I play in. It's the same guys working for Floor or Parsons or Jacobs. They keep recycling the same people. You go to you're like, and they transfer internationally too. So you might go to Saudi Arabia and meet the same freaking people, right? And you need to understand the rules of whatever the different things that people call it. Some people call it status groups. You need to understand the rules of the status group that you're in, be in good graces with that status group so that it continues to work for you, right? Know the secret handshakes, and if the biker gang is your status group, just to be able to give an example, you gotta have the right kind of gear and have the right kind of swag, whatever the hell it is, such that people can recognize you, and so that kind of thing can work for you. So the group thing is something that's 100% key as well when it comes to getting what you want. As you try to rise up, the groups are smaller and smaller. Okay, Polymath, before I continue, I don't know if you had something to say, and then we'll get to the next point.
No, but I'll say anyways. You've convinced me. There, you didn't push me. So, yes, the comment I want to make here is actually about the whole knowing exactly what a person wants and giving it to them instead of insisting on a particular motive that you have. So, the issue is a lot of people here in business do business, and they can succeed in the sense they can make marginal profit, meaning they're not going to lose money because they make use of heuristics. It's true in the case that what Dr. Thando was saying, that most of the time, about 60% of the population do want to feel that mom and pa kind of environment. They want to feel like, okay, this person cares about me or whatever, all that stuff, the vegan friendly, they're looking for something that is like environmentally friendly for vegans, all that kind of stuff. Those kinds of people, yes, giving them that kind of personalized experience will enhance their, obviously, ability to come back to your company. The issue is when you're trying to make money, actual big money, you're not looking at those 60%. You're looking at the marginal people, the people who are obviously less than that, the 30% or so. And of course, they're going to be individuals who are looking for specific, particular experience. Let's say you're going for a massage, right? If you're going for a massage, you might actually have a specific thing you're looking for. Perhaps you want a Swedish massage or a Thai massage or a specific kind of Thai massage. I'm not going to get too specific about some things. But if you go there for a person, you want to ask these questions. If you're a business owner, you want to say, okay, we don't provide this service, right? But let me do some research about it and get back to you, right? Issue is most of the time people have set things that they provide. And the issue is the people who are actually more willing to spend money, who are going to be recurring customers, are the weirdos who are looking for a more unique thing, sale. So the issue
Always
here is,
say yes. Always say yes. Always
Yes,
find a way to
say
say yes
yes.
is what you're basically saying, as opposed to,
Pretty much.
oh, I don't have. Okay, again, let me see if I get what you're saying. The people whom are competent, have money, know where they're going. Okay,
Yep.
they usually know exactly what they want.
Exactly.
So when
And
they
they don't
come to
want
you and
that.
say, "Hey, I want this kind of massage," don't go telling them, "Oh, but there's this other thing over here for kids." And you're like,
No, no,
you're
right.
not gonna go anywhere with that crap.
Right. Imagine, right?
If you
You
don't have
have
it,
a
tell them,
party.
"Okay, no, I don't. Maybe I can." Anyways, go ahead. But that thing, the
Yeah.
whole say yes thing, and also stop trying to. If you're gonna operate on high level stuff, people at
Yep.
a high level know exactly what they want. Don't try to
Yeah.
Exactly.
convince them to get some other thing. Finish K Polymath, and it seems like Dr. Thunder
Yeah.
wants to say something. Then we'll go to the next
No,
one.
yeah, Dr. Thunder's point actually was really poignant there because this is what I've noticed with business, like really bad business people, basically, the average business person is they have a they have a they have a service that they're providing, which is actually just very average and generalized and non-specific, and they're not willing to learn or engage with more specific services. And instead of telling the person, okay, let me, yeah, like you said, let me read up on this, I'll come back to you, they're trying to convince you of no, but you should want this. It's like you have a cocktail party with a bunch of businessmen, and you go to a shop and it's like, do you have any vodka? Right? They tell you no, we have this sugar thing, or what do you call it, Fanta orange or something, right? Trying to convince you of that Fanta orange instead of telling, okay, let me make some calls. I'll see if who's around and who can deliver that over here. You pick it up at an extra 5% because blah blah blah. There, you've got someone who's going to be a recurring plus because you didn't let them down. And the kinds of people who want specialized treatment, as I said earlier, are the kind of people who spend money. So that's something I've noticed is just stop trying to convince people of some alternative that you're offering. You can tell them about it, obviously, like let them know and be aware of it. Don't try to convince them about it. Just say, yes, I can't do this right now, but let me read up on it and I'll come back to you. Simple.
100%. I did not realize how broadly we're going to circle around this topic here. Which topic? We're in one particular area here, the area of making it such that they can always say no, wanting them to tell you no. As a matter of fact, no because X, and then you say, you know what? Fine, I'm gonna get X. I'll get back to you. Okay, keep me in your Rolodex. I want to stay in the group. I'll figure out X and I'll come talk to you, as opposed to start telling them some BS or stuff like that. Now, Dr. Thunder, do you have something to add there?
Yeah, I have two things. So one of the things is you were talking about the services that particular companies provide or don't provide. Often this is the case if the company says, we don't provide this particular service. That's code for they offer that service. So for instance, now this is okay. So there's a massage parlor that's not far from where I live,
Uh-oh.
and I went in there and it was a bunch of it was a lot of Asians in there, and on the door it said no happy endings. Okay. Now, I mean, I suppose
There's
it's
no
possible
sex in the champagne room.
right, which means that that's what they're doing in the champagne room. So there's that, and then the second thing I was going to say is when you tell people that you don't provide a particular service, what that does is it leaves space in the market for someone else to provide that service. Here's a usual example that is used, and that is UPS and FedEx. All right, so UPS, they offered their shipping services, the ground shipping and whatnot, and folks within the company said, "Hey, we really should offer overnight services because people are asking for that." And says, "No, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep doing what we do that keeps working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it." All right. So what ends up happening is FedEx, their whole business in the beginning was just to serve the overnight shipping. Right. So they started doing that. And then, of course, what happened is invariably as they grew, they started to also offer the services that UPS offered.
Mhm.
So they created a direct competitor because they would not, make adjustments. They wouldn't, improve. They wouldn't, embrace something new, change the way that they were thinking about their business. They wouldn't do that. They became recalcitrant. They locked their feet in. And then what's worse is that though they didn't want to offer these overnight shipping things, they created a direct competitor that doesn't just compete against their ground shipping, but now they also had to start offering overnight shipping. So now that also competes against them for the overnight shipping. It's totally, it's silly.
Before I go to Man of Tomorrow here, because I think that this particular point here of number one, climbing up the ladder and then becoming more specific. That's one thing where you got to be more specific, but also as you climb up the ladder, becoming more specific, also being more flexible, therefore changing. Let me mention a couple of things that are right in line with this, because we have many other examples like Toys R Us or Blockbuster, right? All these people that decided to stick, in the mud and then disappear. So there are a couple of things like I started out both petrochem and petrochem adjacent when I started my company in 2014. So whether it be all the way from like propane to refinery type people, right? If I stuck there because I'm like, whoa, look at this year, all my money coming from the propane tank manufacturers with their foundations and their tanks and all that kind of stuff, right? When somebody else came to me with some kind of thing that they wanted to do, if I said no, guess what? A year and a half later, about the middle of 2016, okay, the propane tank thing dried up. Okay, now the money was coming from somewhere else completely different. Couple of examples more recent and more specific is there was a client, right? Because what it does for you is once you do one job, now you can market yourself as doing that, right? There was a client who came to me, they're doing this marijuana facility. Okay, they came and they're doing it in Canada. And they're like, oh, we need to set up the HVAC system because you're going to have all these kind of deodorizers, things that blow the air around. And so we need, so the point is, I don't do mechanical engineering per se, right? I'm a structural guy. But can I do mechanical engineering? Did I take the classes and can I have the contacts to do it? Yes. So I did not say, oh no, call somebody else. I was like, yes. And I scrambled around, right? Made a couple of phone calls, said, let's have a meeting with this guy tomorrow. I called the client and I use these very skills that I'm talking about to learn from the client, right? Certain specifics. Because it tends to be the case, like in this particular case I'm using, I have the general knowledge of engineering, okay? Especially mechanical engineering or, the stuff that moves stuff around, energy, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't change, okay? Mechanical energy, kinetic energy, potential energy, Newton's laws of motion. It's the same thing, whether you're moving gas around or whether you're trying to stop a building from falling. So I have the general knowledge. I don't have certain specific knowledge about certain things. But I said yes. I called a guy, a friend of mine that I know is good at quick on his feet. I'm more of the creative guy where I can kind of think of big picture general solutions. But there are people who are very quick on their feet with like making connections. I'm like, okay, cool. Come in here. I have a meeting with this particular client. Let's try to figure out some things. Okay. And together, even though the client did not know that I was kind of getting this stuff from him as we went along, faking it till I make it. Okay, fake it till you make it, it has a bad connotation. But if you're serious and if you're somebody of competence and so on and so forth, you do have to fake it till you make it because you're going to be like, hey, let me go read up on the massage, as K Polymath was saying, right? I was like, I'm going to make this work, okay? We're going to have meetings. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to go to YouTube and restudy for the mechanical engineers who may ever hear this, Darcy-Weisbach equation. Okay, I'm going to go study Darcy-Weisbach equation, which is about the flow of fluids and the...
Darcy monkey backflips.
Guys, you see here, Dr. Thunder, here he is again. So the point is this: I studied the Darcy-Weisbach equation, the flow of stuff and the friction and this and that, how much air is going to come out from this particular outlet, so on and so forth. And I did it. Now I have a template for how you can build these facilities, hydroponic facilities, whatever it may be, from a mechanical standpoint. I could do the building, but also I can do your HVAC now. I can now say, hey, here's a whole package. Prometheus Engineering can do the building and do the HVAC for these kinds of systems. Like next time I have a call with a client, I'll be like, okay, cool. What kind of unit do you have there? Oh, you got a 3-ton unit? Okay, cool. I think this size of ducts would be fine. What kind of diffusers do you need? These are the specifics that I did not know. Terms like diffusers and 3-ton unit and stuff like that. Now I got it. Why do I have it? Because I said yes. Recently also, there was a whole thing about Revit. Okay. If Revit is a 3D modeling software. I don't necessarily do that. I use AutoCAD and Navisworks. Somebody says, hey, do you do Revit? I could have easily told them no. I said yes. Okay. And I struggled to get it done. Okay. With help from others. And now I can do Revit. Okay. It seems like you wanted to say something, K Polymath.
Yeah, actually, you're making a really poignant point here again. That's the second time I use that word. The point here is also that what I've noticed, especially being around Africa, is that don't be the guy who is incompetent, says yes to something that you know willingly that you're not going to keep up. So, someone asks you a question, do you provide this service? And you know that you can't do it, meaning you don't have any kind of, as a Man of Tomorrow was saying, if you don't have a history of success with things, you haven't built yourself up to that level. So don't accept jobs, obviously, that you can't do, as in there's no practical pathways for you to get it done. And at the same time, if you do accept the job, make sure you go out there and figure it out, because what's going to happen is these jobs that you complete, especially when they're very niche and people coming to you because there's not many people provide the service, they're going to keep coming to you. They are going to be giving your name, the recommendation to their other clients. Like I said, with the massage thing, right? This is a guy who wants a very specialized experience, and this is a very, fine wine guy, like Dr. Thunder or Ike. They might recommend their friends, and of course, now you're moving from making $50 an hour to making $150 an hour, and you're getting clients who are going to be exposing you to far greater things, etc. So, say yes, but make sure that it's within your competency. And by competence, I mean like your pathways to acquiring that skill is feasible.
100%. And that's why you need to have people in your Rolodex that will help you. Because in the examples, both examples I gave, I said, hey, I had to get other people, right? I say yes because, you know what? I could call Dan about this. I could call Miguel about this. And I think together we can come up with something and it could work. Now, do you know 100% is going to work? No, but that's part of the growth. You're going to have to go through the pains. I don't know if you have any further examples on that, Dr. Thunder, or anything to add up to in this say yes aspect of things. Always say yes.
Yeah, I put a link in the chat of a lecture and panel discussion I did at Ohio State University. The name of it is "The Power of Yes: Developing Skills for a Career in Music." And though the discipline is different, maybe different than many that are watching, the concept is still holds. And I just used an example from his own life, from his own career, where he didn't actually know how to do something, but he still said yes. Now, the idea here is you want to say yes to things that are potentially within your particular wheelhouse, but they may or may not be things that you have direct experience with. See, the thing is about life is that you're not born with experience. Okay? You're not born with experience. And you may have natural ability. You're not born with talent. So you must develop the natural ability that you have into talents. And education is useful to the extent that it provides a framework that you can say yes from, or a platform that you can say yes from. Okay? Since you are not born with experience, you're going to end up in situations, if you're trying to improve and grow and reach higher, that necessarily will be things that you haven't done. And that's what that lecture and panel discussion was about. And I brought up, it was a nice diverse within music and arts. It was a nice diverse panel with lots of really great points that were made. In the first maybe 30, maybe 20 minutes of that was just my presentation. And but you have to be willing to say yes. If see, now think about it. And I interviewed on Conversations with Dr. Thunder Maya Kiltron, the great singer, and also she's a great violinist, and she's a great vocal coach, and she's a blue check mark on Instagram. Anyhow, Maya, in our conversations, we talked about that whole power of yes thing, and I asked her some questions directly about, being in situations where she said yes because she at least had a general, enough information to be able to sort of see, in that other room that she's not been in yet. But, and you want to say yes in a way that doesn't cause you to do a lot of face plants. If you fail, you don't want to fail miserably. I mean, you can be effective and still see that there are ways that you could improve, and you can see that as a plus, as a win, because the next time you do it, you're not going to have those deficiencies, right? You're using it as a learning experience. So absolutely.
100%, sir. 100%. And many of the things you said, I'll just re-echo based on what I said earlier, which is that I have the general knowledge of Newtonian physics, Newtonian mechanics. I don't know the specifics about diffusers and air handlers and so on and so forth. But I know that room, as you said, in general, right? Never been in there, seen the particular shapes and what kinds of ducts are available in the market, right? Round duct versus square duct, and what shapes are typically, that kind of stuff, right? But I'm like, okay, cool. I can go refresh on my general knowledge. And guess what I used in terms of, so that I don't make that face plant? I had more meetings with the client than I would typically do. It's a regular client. I'm a total expert in it. I don't have any meetings. I'm like, okay, I got it. Boom. Here's the result. Here's the product. But in this case, I was like, okay, let's meet on Monday, and I'll send you a preliminary on Wednesday, and let's talk about it. And the guy said, oh yeah, this looks good. This is good. And I'm like, whew, good. Now let's reconvene on next week. And it worked out. So you gotta, and the more you do this, obviously, the more you're gonna have the confidence to do it again. But you gotta start somewhere. I like the fact that you said that you're not born with experience, and you're not born with experience of saying yes either. So the more you say yes, though, the more you're gonna get that experience. Now let me move further, because I thought this was gonna be a short one, but apparently we've been dropping a lot of good game and going on here. Now we've not gotten to the closing yet. But as if you can recall, everything so far has been about making people comfortable, okay? Last, we talked about the open door. They are willing, though they're able to always walk out. Let me just let you know that if any point in time, okay, if this is not working out for you, we can always revisit this. I just want you to know that, in other words, the idea is you want to give people autonomy. I have it in red there. They need autonomy. People will blow up a deal, Dr. Thunder, because you back them into a corner, right? In other words, they would mess up their own stuff. Like, you know what I mean? They would take a loss because you made them feel like they did not have autonomy. And I'm going to ask for one in the chat, okay? Are we clear on the autonomy part? Because this is a part where there are many ways to do it. You simply want to come in and you want to let them know that, yo, you can say no at any time. As a matter of fact, what I'm trying to find out is why you're not using me for your accounting services so far, and why the answer is no, right? And if the answer is no today, it's fine. If we need to revisit this, it's fine. You're always willing. It could be even a hostage negotiation, right? Where you're like, you know what? If at any point in time you don't feel comfortable with this, you want me to, I can always get up and leave. And once they have the autonomy, they're going to be more willing to settle down into the seat and listen to you, because people will blow everything up and to hell with everything if you start backing them into a corner, right? That's the whole point of this here. Now, I'm going to say a couple of things about tonality and jokes. This is, I I'll leave the jokes up to Dr. Thunder and K Polymath. But when it comes to tonality, there are a few things here that I would like to say. And I don't know what your schedule is, Dr. Thunder or whatever, but if you gotta hop off, let me know, right? While we start wrapping this up here. There are a few things that I would like to say, okay? The tonality is very key. There's something that I call the puppy dog rolling over tone. And you need to know when to bring that in. This is about being an expert, okay? We do these things, shall we say, naturally, but we're not talking about you doing what you do naturally. What you do naturally is amateurish, okay? What you do when you're talking with your grandma and all that stuff, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being an expert influencer and communicator, an expert persuader. Therefore, it's not just about what you do naturally. It's about being able to identify why you do that thing and be able to deploy it at the right time. What is the puppy dog thing I'm talking about? It actually has a tonation in the voice which goes up, which is stuff like saying, fair enough, or what's the worst that could happen, right? When you say things like that, you don't say, fair enough. You don't say, when you're trying to close the deal on somebody and be like, hey, go ahead and get this kind of, you don't say, well, what's the worst that could happen? No, you say, what's the worst that could happen, right? That's the mammalian equivalent, okay, of you rolling over like a puppy dog and exposing your stomach and going, okay, that is what you're doing. And that you need to deploy in certain times because you're trying to make them comfortable. So if I tell you, hey, this is the best thing since sliced bread, you're going to become the best circumnavigator in 2 easy steps. And as a matter of fact, even if you don't get the blah, 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 what's going to happen to me? Fair enough. What's the worst that could happen? That kind of thing. You got to know when to bring it in, to bring down the tension. Now, I'm just talking about tonality and these kinds of things. But we know, in other words, in our natural conversations, this kind of thing comes up. But you got to know this thing. That's why we're talking about becoming an expert, becoming good. It's not just something that you just naturally do, which you do anyways, but to know when to do it at the right time. And to know that when you're trying to close somebody and try to force their hand a little bit, that's when you do the whole puppy dog thing. Like, hey, what's going to happen? What's a few dollars amongst friends? Worst thing, you lose a few, that kind of thing. Very, very important. And every other kind of tone. In other words, the opposite of that, the serious tone or the lowering of your voice, right? The lowering of your voice is not necessarily serious. It implies that you're going to tell them a secret. It's like, you know what? As a matter of fact, like we are really in the business. It doesn't matter what I'm saying at this point, but it seems as though there's some kind of camaraderie. I'm putting down the formality. I'm not, we're not doing BS anymore. It's mammal to mammal. And then I'm like, after I lower my voice down like that and I go, fair enough, right? Then you're like, now I've drawn you closer. It's all about making somebody comfortable. I don't care again if it's her at the bar or you're trying to sell your Maytag dishwasher. These principles are the same. So, Dr. Thunder, any thoughts about that and any things to add with regards to maybe telling stories or telling jokes or whatever it may be, which are all in the same realm? And then K Polymath, and then then we'll go to see if Wallace has any, what Wallace has to say before we continue.
Yeah, so it is putting your fangs away, as it were. And
exactly.
I am a killer, but I'm a nice killer, So yeah, that does make folks feel more comfortable, sort of exploiting the expectation that people have for you to be a beta. Okay. There's certain things in our society where you can't just be alpha all the time because people wouldn't know how to take that. So you have to be willing to show some beta traits in order to make the sale.
And just one thing there, by the way, what's also horrible, if you come in and it's all,
Yeah. They won't want that either. That's right.
Exactly. Go ahead.
That might be worse. That's
That's the
actually probably
worst.
worse.
You
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you can stay alpha the whole through, and maybe that works with like maybe like 70% of the time. If you can switch alpha and beta at the right time, maybe you get to 90%. But that whole all the time, zero, nothing.
yeah. 0%. Okay, so I do have to go, but I did want to uh, promote our show, and you can actually see the times on there. So that's this Tuesday coming up, and we'll be doing that. And I've got some pretty cool other things happening. I just locked in an interview with the Angry Man, and that's going to be not this coming week, but the week following. And
Oh
I've
boy.
got a bunch of other stuff that's coming, and very very cool stuff. I'm also bringing back, so for October, I didn't have a Dr. Thunder Quartet live stream, but November, yes, is here. And so, second Thursday of November, um, I'll be doing that. So, I'm really excited about that. And of course, that's 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on second Thursdays. So, that's coming. And I've got a Thunder's Thoughts coming up on this Thursday. And something else that's happening on Thursday, but during the day. Now, this won't be on my channel, but I'll put it on my community tab. One of the bands that I direct, uh, it's a student ensemble, it's a commercial music ensemble. We'll be putting a show on, and it'll be 11:30 to 12:25 p.m., 11:30 a.m. to 12:30. I'm sorry, 12:25 p.m. This coming Thursday. And that'll be left up there. So if you're at work or something and you can't see it, you can watch it that way. Then the following week on Friday, which is the 12th, that's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Jazz Ensemble, which is the top group at Ohio State, it's a group that I direct again. We'll be putting a concert on featuring all John Clayton music. John Clayton is a great arranger. I interviewed him on Conversations with Dr. Thunder. If you want to know who he is, during the Gulf War, and this was during for the Super Bowl, Whitney Houston sang the national anthem. That arrangement was arranged by John Clayton. Now, I interviewed him, like I said, on Conversations with Dr. Thunder. We've been focusing on his music. We've been focusing on black men in jazz, and so that's been something very near and dear to my heart. So it's going to be a great concert. We've got a guest vocalist for that concert. It's going to be great. So anyhow, a bunch of stuff going on over the next couple weeks. Please tune in and check it out. And of course, come back on Tuesday, just in a couple short days. Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, to get some more ish done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. And I'll see you later.
All right, all right, all right. Thank you very much. Now, Wallace, question vis-a-vis the topic. What you got for us before we continue, sir?
Well, basically, I would have to say that here in the Manosphere, what you're basically sharing with us is the real game, because this can literally save your life and not be used only in business. Of course, you can use that more profitable way inside business, but you can use that through all the ways that you can possibly imagine. So it's a really great topic. If someone have some time of type, or have some time and curiosity, I would literally say that it's something worth of going into. So I'm thankful. It was a good insight watching the show today.
Hmm. Got it. Yes, if you are coming into the stream late, you can go back definitely. You should go back definitely and re-watch. Wallace recommends that highly. So, as I was saying, there's a whole tonality thing. At this point, we are in the negotiation, which again, the whole basic idea here is you make people comfortable. Whether it's in the preparation stage where you're saying, what exactly do I want and how can I tell them directly so that they know what game they're playing so that they don't get uncomfortable, so they don't get bored. Okay. You have your attention and your intention and your big claim and you say, hey, right? I'm Ike and I'm here to show you this. They're more comfortable than if you sat there twiddling your thumbs, telling them about your history and all that crap. We're a family-owned business. We've been in business since 1955. And then, get the hell out of here. That's BS. Nobody wants to hear that. Again, it doesn't matter if you're selling dishwashers or you're trying to get her to go home with you. Nobody wants to hear all your bullshit. You should know what you want, how to say it cogently, concisely, and coherently, and put it across on the table, so that the other person feels comfortable, so that they know the game that they're playing. You may not win that game. Okay, the point is you may not win the game, but at least the people are going to be comfortable around you. We just finished up with the tonality aspect, and I think that's kind of clear. Okay, somebody mentioned, I don't bite or putting away your fangs, and that's very important there in terms of doing that. Now, there's the empathy thing, which is listen and repeat what they say. Okay, this is a basic simple strategy that I use all the time. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? You need to empathize to make them comfortable because you're negotiating comfortability or making people comfortable, or at least not making them uncomfortable through boredom and whatever, is the holy grail. That is the thing that we're making sure that we have the whole time. That's how we close the deal. That's how we influence people. Okay, it's not so complicated. It's a simple target, but there's so many approaches and so many ways to get there. Now, what do I mean by that? So I'm talking to, you know what? Let's role play this. K Polymath, you still there?
No.
So, you want to start telling me something? Just pick a story or something. Talk to me. I want to demonstrate this listening technique, which will save your life. This is perhaps the most important one because you can practice it tomorrow. Okay? You hear that?
You mean,
Taboo Smash,
active.
My Vivid Life. Whomever is listening, you can practice it right now. Blind Guy, His Wife, Their Life, with your spouse, with whomever. You can start practicing it tomorrow. All those other things that I said about preparation and attention, intention, big claim, know what you want, be concise, understanding that they need to be able to say no because they need autonomy. Go back and watch the video and brush up on all those things. Knowing what people want versus the product. People don't want a product. People want a state of mind. All that kind of stuff can be complicated. But this one we're about to do right now, this you can start practicing tomorrow, and you should start practicing tomorrow. So just start talking to me, K Polymath.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I thought you're not so into gimmicks. For example, this is active listening. That's what they call it, right? Usually you're against these new age definitions of these new terms. So the question is, why did you call it listening, but you didn't call it active listening?
Why I didn't call it active listening?
Yeah, because you're active, obviously your mind is active, you're paying attention, you're able to also respond and repeat or reiterate
Stop.
what the other person.
Notice how I didn't answer your question? I simply repeated what you said.
Right, and I gave more and more. I actually am the one who continued to answer my own question.
That is the skill, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let me get a 1 in the chat. Let's do it again, though. It's very simple. I'll say what I did. You guys saw it live. And I'll say what I did, and then we'll do it again. Even if they're asking you a question, you could simply repeat what they said. When you repeat to people what they said, right, and just pause, it's like magic. Two things are going on. Internally with you, I always like to talk about this internal versus external dichotomies. Internally with you, okay, you're not listening to speak. The whole time I'm listening to K Polymath, I'm restating what he said in my head so that wherever he stops, I'm just going to repeat what he said, the last phrase. In other words, this breaks me out of that thing where, oh, he's talking. Now let me figure out what I'm going to say. Let me figure out. That does not make people comfortable. People want to talk. They don't want to listen to you. If you sit there and listen and then repeat what they say, you're going to be the most interesting person in the room. and nobody even knows anything about you. You didn't say anything interesting about yourself. They're going to be like, wow, I spoke with the most interesting guy today. Why?
That's interesting.
Go ahead. Keep talking. Just start another. I'll answer the active question thing because I'm listening. I know what you said. But
Yeah,
maybe
so-
start another. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I knew this guy once actually. He had a company, and one time he had 3 employees. One of them was always listening, but he only listened to understand the basic stuff. Another
You
one
only listened to understand the basic stuff.
Yeah, another one listened to actually understand the full picture, and the final guy didn't actually listen. You could stop him at any point of the conversation, and he didn't seem like he even understood the last sentence that was stated. Do you know what happened to this guy?
What happened to this guy?
Well, what do you think? Tell me.
What do I think?
Yeah, basically, well, this guy was got rid of. He got fired.
I think the people are getting it, right? Is it now? It is not natural, especially when you start doing it the first time, because it's. But let me ask you: Did you feel uncomfortable with how I was responding, or no?
No.
Okay. The thing is, we think people are going to be uncomfortable with us not immediately saying stuff. What did you say about interjection?
Well, okay, so puzzled at first, maybe I was, but not puzzled in a bad way. Puzzled as in, interesting. Seems like someone's actually listening. And then the interjection part was basically is that there's this kind of impotent, I can't pronounce the words these days, but there's this need to act and interject on when points are being made. You slowly, or rather quickly, want to just say all crazy sort of stuff. You got to control that impulse.
Got to control that impulse.
You're doing it again, huh?
Exactly. I do this. Number one, as I said, I want everybody in the chat. Okay, you've already spending time. You're listening to this. Okay, we're people here who like to do things. Okay, I'm spending my time telling you this stuff because I think that, I know that this is 100% A grade practice, top tier, freaking platinum game that I'm telling you right now. Okay, I'm talking $1 billion game here. Okay, and of all the things that I mentioned, this is the one that you can start doing tomorrow. Go to your next cocktail party. Hey, Halloween is around. Some people are going to Halloween parties. You're at your Halloween party, you got your costume and this, that, and the other. And somebody comes and be like, oh, you know what? I almost didn't get the costume. I went to the store, the store, the other one on Fremont rather than Bellevue. Oh, yeah, Fremont rather than Bellevue. And then they continue. And I could not find the red shoes. Oh, you could not find the red shoes. Yeah, the one with... What'd you say?
This is why some guys are still married today, huh?
It's a very good skill in marriages. Yes. Look, 100%. Now, we're not going to parse all the differences in personality, okay? That's a 200 level course. We're still a 100 level course here, okay? But regardless of your personality versus her personality, she's telling you about how she got the Uber and then she parked at the front of the restaurant, by the alley. And you're like, oh, by the alley. Yeah, and then we got out and Macy, and the waiter kept telling the same stupid jokes. And, I decided to have the steak this time. Oh, you decided to have the steak this time. You're just listening.
Why?
What do you mean, why? Then you could add. So there are two let me further this. There's going to be a cul-de-sac, an endpoint, somewhere where there's nothing else to say about the steak. Let's say you say, oh, you decided to have the steak this time. And she goes, yeah. This is when you then interject. You will find that you don't have to say very much. You're going to have an arsenal of crap to say. This is for people, let's say you have some kind of social anxiety, okay? And you're like always worried, what am I going to say? Don't worry. Just have about 2 or 3 things to say, okay? But just never say it. Just keep on repeating what they say until they run out of steam. And then you throw the next ball at them. Like, oh yeah, by the way, and then they catch the ball, they start going, they go, and you just simply repeating the last phrase. Remember, I said there are 2 things going on. actively they're going to feel more heard because you're actually listening to them. Why? Because they can sense that internally, because in order to do this, you actually have to listen to them. You get the point, okay, Polymath? It's not like,
Yep.
oh, you're pretending. In order for me to repeat the last phrase you say wherever you stop, I'm actually recording it in my head. I'm like actively, I'm not thinking anything to respond. I'm just like, he said this, he said this, he said this. When you stop, I just say the last part and I pause. And you're like, blah, 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 and you pause. And trust me, people are not going to be freaked out about it. It may sound strange to them immediately, but they're going to be like, oh, this is that kind of guy. He's actually intrigued by what I have to say. The person now feels a little bit better and so on and so forth. No one has given them that kind of attention for the past month. No one cares what they have to say. You're trying to sell something or you're trying to persuade something, whatever it may be. Okay, you're trying to get her to go home with you, whatever it may be. She goes to work every day. No one listens to her. This one is saying this and that one is saying that. Her ex was never blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Now she meets somebody that doesn't just talk back, but is repeating what they say and will then interject an interesting point. You don't have to have too many interesting points, therefore. And if you think people don't like talking, well, I don't know where you've been. You've been living under a rock. People like to talk. They like to talk. That's why you are always listening to try to interject as well. What you need to do is you need to turn that off, internally start repeating what they say, and then just give them the dimes, drop it. So I don't know, any thoughts on that, K Polymath, and then we'll go to our next thing. The other thing I wanted to say is something else I did also during the conversation is you need to learn the lean back and lean forward response. So when people are talking, there's the noises you make, right? Like the uh-huh. So there are two. I did one. I was like, when you were talking about the person, and I'll answer your question about the active listening because I do listen. I know what you asked. When you were talking about my employee, somebody's employees, whatever, if somebody listened, I went back like this and I go, And then there's another kind of listening when you're like, There's a lean forward and a lean back. The lean back suggests thinking, right? I don't have to tell you this. We're mammals, we know, right? The lean forward is like excitement, like tell me more, tell me more. You need to be able to know when you do the also gives you time to think, especially in negotiation situations, right? So the lean back combined with repeating what you said, that's like double dose of time I get now. So I have social anxiety, or I am in the middle of a tough negotiation. I'm trying to influence somebody to do something, and you say X, Y, and Z, and then I got the salmon. I'd be like, the salmon, right? That generally, now salmon is not a good thing to think about, okay? But you got to know when to do that kind of thing. Lean back is reasoning, and you will do this naturally anyways, right? But the point is you got to know these natural things and be able to deploy them at will. That's what differentiates an amateur from an expert, right? So let me go ahead now and say another thing, okay? A few pointers I can give you, okay? I was saying earlier that you need to be able to prepare and these things I'm saying, right? I know them. I have them memorized. All that stuff about no is an option. You can always walk away. And as we go to the close, the question I always ask is, like, is there any, other than the fact that we just met, is there any reason why you wouldn't go home with me right now? That's kind of, let's say that kind of a thing. They're questions for the close. I close with questions. That's my thing. It's it's actually a quite enjoyable game, because you're not actually, it's still indirect, okay?
Yeah, actually,
but you're, go ahead.
Yeah, the comfort thing is actually underplayed because I don't want to give specific examples of people, but one African travel YouTuber basically had this Asian girlfriend, and she showed signs. She literally said, "I want to go home." He kept holding her back into his fold, and every time she tried to, show that she wants to leave, he would just bring her back. People don't want to be trapped. She might enjoy the experience. By she, I mean any business partner or any individual, or even a person you're romantically wishing to be involved with. But if you keep trapping someone and making them know that they're only able to kind of exist within this space that you've created, you actually make them so uncomfortable because they can't actually enjoy the time that they're now consistently thinking, well, how do I go to my space, especially if they're introverted or something. They want to go back to their home, right? They want to go back and sleep comfortably. And then when they get more comfortable with you, then they want to spend more time with you. Like if they know that the door is always open, right? That there isn't like some kind of negative thing that's going to happen for them for simply wanting to be comfortable. They're going to slowly become more comfortable until your place is just as comfortable as their place. But yeah, but this one is really big. Like for me, in my example, for example, when I moved into a different country, one of my uncles just kept trying too hard to hold me back into that house, not giving too much freedom. Obviously, the end goal is I wasn't there. It's just that simple. You try to trap someone, the complete opposite thing happens. As Ike said earlier, people want autonomy. They don't want to be trapped.
100%. And since we're all master level people, at least in terms of the thinking, we are not going to be like, oh, there's a contradiction. You said leave the door open, but now you're trying to trap him. At the end of the day, you still got to close the deal. But you're closing the deal all the while making them comfortable. And when I did my whole questions close, it was still a question. As in, like, besides this particular objection, besides the fact that I'm 5'4", why wouldn't you, right? It's not a pressure thing, right? They can be like, oh, you know what? Besides the fact that, is there any room 5'5"? Hey, let's go. I'm not 5'4", by the way. But anyways, so the point is this. Other things that you want to help them, that you want to have memorized in order to keep people comfortable is something like this in a negotiation scene. Let me go ahead and share the thing here. I say over there, you want to tell people something like, you must be under a lot of pressure right now. Now, this is high stakes at this point. You're moving towards, like, this is not just some kind of, and when you say something like this is not something that you say and then say, but, you must be under a lot of pressure right now, but, blah, blah. No. Bad. You want to stay there. You want to empathize with them. Okay? This whole negotiation is about making them comfortable again. Okay? And you'd be like, you're negotiating about a price, about a deal. And you'd be like, hey, you must be under a lot of pressure right now to complete that project. Talking to a project manager for a particular construction project, and I'm trying to get him to use my service or whatever the hell it may be. This guy is under a lot of pressure. And I'm just going to say that and leave that hanging. He's going to bite. 9 times out of 10, he's going to bite. And your tone, as I said here, must be genuine. Okay, this is the time for the genuine tone. Okay, this is not the time for the puppy dog tone. You must be under a lot of pressure, right? No, not that tone. And this is not the time for you must be under a lot of pressure. Not that tone. It's, you must be under a lot of pressure to close that deal, right? I mean, wow, you must be under a lot of pressure. You're trying to rent an apartment from me, right? Wow, you must be under a lot of pressure to find a new place, huh? And why am I doing all that? What does it have to do with the price of eggs in China? It makes them more comfortable. They feel more heard. I'm getting in there and I'm going to get what they want. What I want at the end of the day by relating to them. Okay? So, your attention must be focused. And again, it's not something you say and just move on, right? Whatever pressure or whatever kind of situation that you can kind of say with that honest tone, reduced voice, a lot of air in your voice. Like, you must be under a lot of that kind of thing. It goes a long way into this whole mammal to mammal kind of conversation thing here. Now, we're going to get to closing. Always be closing. Have you heard that term, K Polymath? And what do you think they mean when they say always be closing? It's highly misunderstood. Okay, people say it all the time, always be closing. I'll tell you exactly why it's so simple, but let me see what your thoughts are as to this phrase, always be closing. And you're muted if you're saying something, or if you can't say something, then I'll go ahead and explain myself to the chat.
Always be closing. I haven't actually heard it.
Oh, before. It's an American thing.
What does it mean? Right. Could just be
they say because there's different. There are different aspects of the sale, right? There's prospecting, get other. So they're just like always be closing, right? You close, so always be closing.
What it means, yeah.
What do you think? Because most people don't know what it means. Or
Yeah, I
it
mean,
doesn't mean one thing. It's a kind of a principle. It's a direction. It's an orientation. Go ahead.
yeah, in my mind, it just kind of has this feeling of basically having intention, attention, and a big claim, meaning always have a purpose and a point to everything that you're doing. So always close a goal, and close those goals towards closing the biggest goal or the biggest fish that you're trying to catch. Use every opportunity to learn, increase. Yeah, so close. Are you getting some contracts for prospecting? Close that deal, get it done. Then close the next deal where you're using your material if you're an engineer. And close the next deal when you're the one designing the engineering designs.
There you go. So one way of looking at it is that there's you're always closing a deal. Okay, that's not that's not the. In other words, you're closing many things. Like for example, I talked about Becky. I said I'm going to close Becky on giving me Maria's number. Becky is the secretary. Maria is the project manager. I got to close Becky. Okay, so the communication with Becky is a close. I need Maria's number. I use the same principles. In other words, what am I trying to get? Coherent, concise, right? Cogent. I go there and I tell Becky, I do my whole thing, get Maria's number. Before I call Maria, I'm doing the same thing. That's one way to look at it in the sense that everything is a close. But the other thing is akin, or shall we say, it consists within the realm of what Aaron B says here, which is you always gotta be talking about refreshing their mind as to that first sentence you told them, which is what you want, right? I came in and I said what I wanted, right? That is the whole point. One of the main points of this is that when you are more direct and simple, people are more comfortable. But the whole conversation, I'm always referring back to the fact of what I want. It may be, I want you to hear this idea, or it may be, I'm trying to get you to send me some drawings so that I bid stuff. So all through the conversation, guess what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to say things like, so after you send me the drawing, here's what, right?
Right.
The whole thing also about, let's say, what they want, which is another big thing, is you need to know what they want, meaning the feeling that they're looking for. Let's say it's a construction person, right? What they want is an ability to build that straight wall in a very easy way. I have some tool, a total station tool, which is like a surveying tool or the lasers or whatever, that does what they want. So what I'm going to do at some point in the conversation, after I've stated what I want, is I'm going to paint a picture. I was like, imagine we're on the freeway, the 60 freeway, and we have to build 500 meters of wall, right? So I'm like 60 freeway, 500 meters of wall. Okay? Now they have a picture in their head. And I'm going to paint the pain for them about, you know how when you're on the third course of the brick lane, sometimes you have to then bend the rebar and blah, blah, blah. You're painting the pain, not in some abstract way. In their heads, they have a wall. They have 500 meters. They're thinking about the pain. They have been there before. They can understand. So then when I talk about my solution, not necessarily my solution, but when I talk about the nirvana, the heaven situation, whereby if the wall, how would it be if you did not have to deal with that particular situation in the third course of the brick lane, right? I keep on referring back to that. I was like, and if you remember in that wall, I may still be in the negotiation phase, but I'm keep on talking about the end goal, the future. Always be closing means always be talking about that future that they want. The future that they want may be a future of good vibes, as we talked about before when you're trying to get her to go home with you. The future that they want when it's the kitchen example of selling your appliances is that future of them sitting nicely with a cup of coffee by the bar stool and not having to worry about their appliance that is not working right now. You always want to be talking about that future. Always want to be talking about your intentions, which you've already established right from the beginning. Why? Because you prepared and you were coherent about it. So you're always circling around the close. Always. Never let the conversation fly away. Even if it flies away, find a way to bring it back to what it is you want out of it, right? While all the time keeping them comfortable with these techniques which we've discussed. That's what this always be closing means, ladies and gentlemen. So now, as I said, knowing what you want, right? I'm going to put up this thing and then we're going to wrap this thing up soon. Knowing what you want and keep referring back to it. That's kind of what Aaron B said. Aaron B said, keep refreshing their minds as to exactly why we're here. I am here to demonstrate to you how we can save you 50% on your installation costs, sir, Mr. Contractor. Okay? And throughout the conversation, I'm like, and this is how this ties to saving you that money. Yes, the cost actually comes from the labor savings, but we at some point in the conversation, I'm going to come back and interject that this is 25% of the cost right there, right? And we're talking. We see, yes, the ease of the installation is really how you get to see those savings. Okay? No matter what, the conversation keeps going. I keep on circling around what I said I was here to do. You see how easy it is? Not easy, let me say simple. It's a simple process. You have one sentence which describes exactly what you're there to do. And everything else is just going to go around and around and around that sentence. Around and around and around and around that sentence without making them uncomfortable. You keep on just going around and around and around that sentence, that image, that vision of the future of which you're trying to sell to them. Okay? I don't care what you're selling. It's the same thing. So, closing again, get the objections. What does this mean? Say something incorrect, for example. Say something like, it seems to me like, that the price may be outside your budget. Do you know why I would say something like that, Aaron B? Or Wallace. Wallace is over here. Wallace, you're a smart guy. I'm trying to close somebody. I don't have complete information. I don't know what the objections are. In other words, I don't know why they would say no. So I would say something like, well, it seems to me that the price is kind of outside your range. Why would I say that, Wallace?
Well, because basically, usually when the person gets a question like this, it will try to say the opposite, like, no, I'm able to do this, because you're literally playing with their self-esteem, if I could say. So basically by saying that it's out of their budget, the majority of the individuals would say, no, I'm capable of doing this. It's like, oh, you can't literally lift this weight right here. The majority of guys will literally do it.
You say I'm negging them?
Yes, it's high level nagging.
So high level negging, yes, that's one layer of it, or it's a layer below the main layer. The main layer is I don't really know whether it's a price, but I want to say some possible objections so that they say, no, it's not the price. It's my wife. No, it's not the price. It's Jeff from accounting. You get the idea. I don't know why they're going to say no. I don't know what the objections are. I've been telling them about this beautiful thing about how the kitchen is going to be great and how they're going to be able to sit down in peace and drink the coffee. And I'm going to say, now that I'm getting to the close, okay, the close is mainly blowing through objections. It's like you take a big truck and you just drive through all the objections, right? And I need to know the objections. We both need to see it, and you need to see me driving through it for me to close you. So I'm going to start bringing up objections. I don't wait for you to bring up objections. Amateur hour. That's amateur hour for me to wait for you. I'm going to ask you things like, so it seems like Jeff, it seems like from your side, really it's Jeff, the project manager, that really doesn't like this, right? And it's like, oh, no. Jeff is great. Jeff is okay with this. I said, you know what? It's the new CEO, or it's this new initiative that we have, or it's the new software under which we're operating that makes it such that we cannot make decisions in this way. Right? You get the point?
Yes, I can completely understand. Yes, I can completely understand the point. It's basically making the person, you basically went through a way that the other person, when they're giving you the answer, they're also giving you information about what are the truly obstacles.
Exactly. And I use the second point there I have is ask why not. Okay? Ask why not. In other words, I said, hey, besides the fact that we just met, is there any reason why you wouldn't go home with me? Besides the fact that you've never used us before, is there any reason why you would not use our accounting services? Besides the fact that it is, and here's the thing about this method. Here's another method you can kind of try, but this one The first method I said you need to try is that whole repeating thing, the repeating. You listen to repeat, you listen to repeat, you listen to repeat what people say, and you'll be the most interesting person in the party. Try it tomorrow. It works. And get Chris Voss's book. He used to be an FBI negotiation, a great an FBI negotiator. You know, terrorists, people, hostages, people getting killed. That's real stuff. Okay. And, you know, he has a lot of successes with that, right? About 70% success, right? He was the chief negotiator. When something is going on in some freaking place in the Middle East, he flies in and negotiates with these people. Okay. Chris Voss has very good techniques on this. So we're saying the ask why not. The why not question is a recurring question. It's a recursive function. So if I come to you and I say, hey, is there any reason why you wouldn't do this? And you say, it's because it's red and I like blue. Guess what I'm going to then ask you? I'm going to say, besides the fact that it is blue, or besides the fact that it is red, or I can say something like, besides the fact that it is not blue, and there's a subtle difference psychologically between those two things. Besides the fact that it is not blue, is there any other reason why you wouldn't buy this? And you might be like, it's my wife or something. It's like, oh, if your wife was here right now, what would she say? I'm trying to bring out the wife objection. So here's the thing. As I said, you just need to drive the truck through these objections because you've already done your homework. You've already stated clearly what they want. You've already painted the picture of the future that they're looking for, of them sitting there in the kitchen, and you have the new Maytag dishwasher and it works well and everything is great. They have good kitchen operations. You've done your homework. You're doing all these dance and forth negotiating. Now you're trying to close. You're trying to encircle them. Okay? And the point is this. A lot of the reasons that they say, a lot of like the first reason, the second reason, the third reason, doesn't really matter. You will find that you'll be like, in other words, when you said that you like blue, it's not that important. I can simply say, besides the fact that it is not blue, is there any other reason why you wouldn't buy it? And guess what? You might just say, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to sign the check. Do you envision yourself being able to do that? In other words, that you're the buyer, right? I'm the seller. You're like, I really want blue. And I'm like, well, you know what? That's very interesting. But I'm curious. Besides the fact that it's not blue and it will save you 50% on your installation, like besides the fact that it's not blue, is there any other reason why you would not buy this? And you might just be like, you know what? That whole blue thing is stupid anyways. I've been looking for a way to save this thing. Ike seems like a nice guy. I'm comfortable with him. What's the whole blue thing going to do for me anyways? Sign the check. You get the point, Wallace?
Yes, I can completely understand because when you're literally asking them the questions and they literally can't find an excuse, that is basically what an objection can be said as. They basically see Ike is probably someone worth of respect because, well, I'm not being able to find excuse for not buying his product, so it's probably worth it. So let's just buy it. When they cannot find the excuse easily as the first, second, or the third reply that they are going to give you, it's easier for them to just be a consumer because, well, they will think you're worth it because they were not able to give you the excuse, to give you the objection, like you said. It's literally like the process of literally repeating and listening. But I have one advice regarding to this, that you literally have to be there. Doesn't just try to repeat the last words like you were a ghost and not pretending. Be literally there. Apply the ABC, always be closing, even when you are literally just listening and repeating. Because if you're not there, the other person will literally feel it. We are like mammals. We have literally centuries of evolution. Doesn't try to play the stupid game, just pretending and repeating. This will only work with like low level. Just literally be there, be a human person. Even if you are just going to repeat and listen, be there, be a human being, and it's going to work much better.
100%. And as the first thing I said, in this broadcast is the reason why you got to be prepared is so that you can ad lib. What I mean by that is so that you can have your conscious mind very free and focused. So that all this automatic things that I'm doing with the is there any reason why you wouldn't and the repeating the last thing you're saying is all automatic. But my conscious mind is 100% focused on you, right? And focused on the little things that you're doing and all the ways in which I can always be closing, right? As you said, always be circling and bringing that image of the future that you want into your mind. But I'm very well prepared with my consistent message to you that I can give you in one sentence and all that kind of stuff. And I prepare it and practice it and rehearse it and rehearse it and rehearse it so that it becomes automatic, precisely so that I can be present. Okay? So it's going to seem like magic when you're very, very well practiced at this kind of stuff. People are like, wow, you seem so quick. No, it's because about 50% of what you're saying is well rehearsed. 50% of your understanding of the human dynamic is just rehearsed. The other 50%, right, is hyper focused so that you know how to turn the steering wheel, how to bob, weave, ad lib, as I said. Improvisation is what you need, and you need to be present in order to improvise, because if you cannot improvise, then you make people uncomfortable, and when you make them uncomfortable, you're not going to close the deal. So that is basically the idea there. So we're landing the plane, we're closing the deal. As I said, another thing to remember is there's no such thing as a 100% close rate. So this is another point why you got to get to the objections quickly, and you got to say things like, so how? That's what that D is supposed to mean. It's supposed to be how, not Dow. Okay. How do you see us working together in the future? Wallace, above that, I said I cannot close 100%. Okay. Why did I say that thing there? Why am I asking you? So how do you see? And this is not at the close. This is somewhere in the negotiate. This is somewhere towards I may not even know. I've already kind of just told you what I want and that kind of thing. And then basically I'm like, so, well, how do you see us working together in the future? Why would I ask you this, Wallace? Like, what kind of future do you see us having together, lady at the bar, right? It depends on what I'm trying to do, right? If I'm trying to, I'm trying to wife her or do something else. But the point is, why would I ask you this question vis-a-vis me not being able to get 100% close rate? What are your thoughts?
Because even if you can't get a 100% close rate, you can always learn from what happened, and from the next interaction, you can always be better. So even if you have to consider you won't have 100% close rate, because if then you're thinking you are bulletproof, and then you won't be able to learn. So it's like something that you put something like in your mindset that you can have the chance of failure, and even through failure you're going to always learn and improve. So with this question you can basically get to see the objections, the middle term, the short term, and also the long term objections that can be happening there. So you can see if the person can visualize if there can be a chance of future, because if they can't see it, there is already a barrier. But you already know that there's a barrier, so you can choose either to back out or just try to stomp it and try to find it. Then you can 100%. Optimize and make it more efficient.
You don't have all the time in the world, okay? And you're not going to have 100% close rate. You want to find out whatever your close rate is. Let's say 70%, which is pretty good. You want to find out if this guy is in the 30% or not. If you ask a question like that and they're like, what? I have no idea. I don't know. Why don't you tell me? Tell me what can you do for me? You already know that this guy is probably in the 30% side of things. Okay? You're not necessarily perhaps going to close with him. You don't have a lot of resources and time to spend trying to chase down things that are never going to happen. So if they cannot see a future, right, whereby you play into that vision of what they need, because just because they need a dishwasher doesn't mean that they see a future with your dishwasher, right? You can be like, you're selling a BMW, a dishwasher, you're selling yourself in the sexual marketplace, whatever it may be. If they cannot see you fitting somehow into that future, then it's not going to work. Or the chances are it's not going to, you might not, plenty of fish in the sea, right? So why keep beating your head on the wall? That's the point of that particular thing there. So ladies and gentlemen, okay? We have gone all the way through from preparation to making a good first impression, and then we negotiate and we close. All the while, we've had this basic principle, which is that you need to make them comfortable, and you knowing what you are there for in a way that you can tell them in a very simple way. Okay? Because if we focus on the things that are in red, which is what do you want and how can you tell them in a short sentence, and also what do they want, which has nothing to do with a product. People are not in the market for the product. People are in the market for a subjective state. People buy stuff to feel good about themselves, okay? Or people get that dishwasher so that they can have a peaceful kitchen. It's about, in other words, switch from product to put yourself behind their eyes and say, what does this person want to feel? He wants to feel when he wakes up in the morning that he has a good system for his accounting software, that he has a good CRM, customer relations management software, because it makes him feel good. It removes obstacles from his way. It's not because he loves your particular XBT CRM or your particular Maytag. Oh, look at all the list of features and benefits. No, it's not about that. What do you want? What do they want? And then tell them in that short sentence in order to keep them comfortable. Okay? Make your attention, get their attention, and you're competing for space in their perceptual framework. You're not competing with the other manufacturer of Maytags or the other manufacturer of dishwashers. You're not competing with the other men. Okay? If this is you're trying to get a woman or something, you're not competing with the other men. You're competing for space in her head. Can I get a one in the chat, Aaron B? Aaron B, you understand what I'm saying? You're not competing with other men. You're competing for space in her head. Everything from CNN to Instagram to YouTube to the earthquake that happened to the thing she's worried about in the future, blah, 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 blah. That is your competition. That is your competition. And the same thing, whether you're selling, no matter what you're selling, it doesn't matter. It's all these other things, all the other distractions, the daughter, the grandma, the sick, and da. Don't bring up your competition, who you think your competition is. You're competing for attention. You're competing for a warm place where they can rest their head. Be that warm place where they can rest their head. Basically is what we're saying, right? So everything else follows the same flow of you making them comfortable, whether you're doing the whole tonality thing, doing the whole puppy dog thing, and going with that, oh, fair enough, right? That kind of stuff. Knowing the right time to say those kinds of things, or in the right time to say, hey, you must be under a lot of pressure right now to close that project. All that kind of stuff goes in 100% to the point. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts there, Wallace, and then we'll wrap this up. But as you said before, Wallace has already advised you before, if you did not watch this from the beginning, go ahead and watch it from the beginning, because I think there's a lot of gems in here that are applicable to many areas of persuasion. Okay? Any last thoughts there, guest?
Well, like I was speaking before, this topic is really interesting and can help you through a multitude of ways in your daily life or related to business or even your social life, dating life, whatever thing. So basically, if you apply the principles that Ike basically teached us here, you can have a much higher efficiency and a higher rate of success throughout the endeavors of your daily life. It's like he was talking. ABC is something that is basically getting the best that you can from everything. Like if you're going to the gym, have the best workout you can. If you're going to the supermarket, get the best deal that you're going to get with your money that you can have. Basically, ABC can be applied to everything through the interactions. If you're going to have a talk with someone, have the best talk that you can have within that specific scenario, because time is never going to come back. So you have to use your time properly. And the best way to do that is with a higher efficiency. And if you basically watch the video, if you basically try to search the topics that Ike said, you're going to literally reach a new form of way to interact with the others and even with yourself. It's really great, something that will make you a better human in the end, you know? So I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful for all the knowledge that I have gained through this interaction. And this is basically my thoughts for today.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Couldn't have said it better. Very, very, very applicable indeed. And as a particular stack in or particular layer of your talent stack, influencing is the most important one because as you go up, okay, two things happen. You become more strategic and you need to be able to influence people. That's what it means to be a CEO rather than just a line worker. That's what it means to be a general rather than just a lieutenant. That's what it means to be a high-level professor than something else. Basically, what you're doing is you're becoming more strategic, but also you're having the ability to influence people. So whatever your technical skills are in accounting, in engineering, and then you learn a little bit of public speaking, and you add a little bit of this, a little bit of that, the one that really shoots you all the way up is your ability to get people to do what you want them to do, when you want them to do it, how you want them to do it. Yeah, that's where it's at. Until next time, we're out.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain, the face of evil lurking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.